Hey everybody, welcome to WrestleMania Part 2, your full review with Mary Grater and Zach Smith as we cover everything end to end. And this is also a very, very long show, over 2.5 hours again. So I hope you're ready for a ton of wrestling audio. We get into some heated debates on the FireFly Fun House, and why I wasn't a big fan and why they were. I mean, that went on for like 20 minutes, maybe more, and making our cases as to why we thought that it was either great or terrible. So this is a really entertaining show, and we get into some other debates too about some of the matches that, again, maybe you weren't a fan of and I was. So we're going to get everything going right after this. So I know I don't do this a whole lot, but if you guys want a really entertaining user and account to follow on Snapchat, follow Millie Hall 666. That's MILLY Hall 666. That's MILLY HALL 666 on Snapchat. She posts her life on Snapchat. It's super entertaining, funny at times too, and customizes shoes. So check her out at Millie Hall on Snapchat.
Welcome to the WWE Podcast, the most passionate and authentic wrestling analysis on the web. We've got you covered with every Raw, SmackDown, and NXT show, giving you a no bullshit opinion. We know you love wrestling. We do too. So let's get this show underway.
And that's the bottom line. What? 'Cause Stone Cold said so.
All right, everybody, welcome to Part 2 of your WrestleMania review. And this is probably one of the most heated and fun podcasts that I've done in quite some time, as my co-hosts and I get into a really just a fun debate over the FireFly Fun House match that is in the first half of the show, so you're going to want to stay tuned for that. And overall, it was just a recap of WrestleMania, our thoughts and where it could be going, and just a great conversation. As I've never had this conversation or this group before, this tandem of Zach and Mary. So a new pairing as we get into the WrestleMania review, and WrestleMania is over, right? So things are about to return to, quote, normal. I wish the rest of our lives would, right? But we're about to go into a new season of WWE and look forward to Money in the Bank that comes to us, I think, May 10th or so. Don't quote me on that. So we have another pay-per-view that we can hang our hat on, and the WrestleMania hangover is real. And it's come, it's gone. It will be looked at. It's probably one of the most unique, if not the most unique. And, I say unique, but that's really a cover for disappointing in terms of there were no fans. Not the fact of the wrestlers not giving effort. I mean, these guys and gals busted their asses over the last few weeks to get WrestleMania taped, and the effort was certainly there. But with no audience, let's be honest, no audience takes the heart and soul out of a presentation of pro wrestling. I mean, it just does. So it was still hard. There were a few matches on the card that I think were able to make me forget that there was no audience at times. And that was on it was on part 1 of WrestleMania with Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins, which I believe was possibly the match of the entire pay-per-view. They tore it down. They burned it down, I should probably say, right? But this was a pay-per-view that had its moments. I think that most people are not on my side of the FireFly Funhouse opinion, and you'll get to hear that as we roll on. So this is a long one, guys. As I said at the top, this is a long podcast as you look at your length of this show, but I think that's a good thing because you get to sit, dive in, you got time on your hands, right? This is the time to sit back, enjoy. If you're going for a drive and listening to me, well, great. If you're going for a walk, I think that's cool too. If you're just sitting there on your couch or you're falling asleep to me, which apparently some people do, I'll take that as a compliment. It's all good. But thank you guys for listening to this show. It's much appreciated. And we'll be back tomorrow with your Raw review. And Wednesday will be From the Vault nostalgia. It won't be a new one. It's going to be From the Vault, but I'll pick a good one as I need a bit of a break from audio. I mean, I've just been, I feel like, nonstop publishing and recording, but so I'll be back live tomorrow, but then Wednesday will be a nostalgia, but From the Vault. And then But of course, NXT and AEW with our great co-hosts of Jeff Johnson and Zach Smith, who also joins me today. And then back with your week in review this coming weekend. And so it's going to be a blast as we take a breath and sit back and relax and realize what happened at WrestleMania, see where they could be going, and all pray and hope that we are back to a live audience sooner than later, because boy, there were certain matches that had hurt more than others, and I really felt for Edge and Drew McIntyre. Those are the two that I really felt for in terms of no crowd, because you wanted McIntyre to have that moment with fans that have been maybe following his career and realizing that he has had a lot of bad luck throughout his career, and that he's earned his spot, he's paid his dues, he's cut his teeth. And we don't get to celebrate that with him. And really with Edge and his comeback, not being able to share that moment with the fans is tough too. So, look, we all need to get back to our regular lives at some point. I don't know when that is, but we can all look forward to it and realize that every minute that goes by, we're getting closer to it. Oh, and before we get going, of course, I want to shout out to our newest patron of the show, Tim Bass. Thank you so much for your patronage. Enjoy the entire library ad-free. And also, he sent in a little bit of audio, so let's take a listen, and I'll respond, and then we'll get to the WrestleMania review.
Hey guys, it's Tim Bass. I'm down here in Memphis, Tennessee. I just wanted to talk about Becky Lynch retaining her title against Shayna Baszler at WrestleMania. I know a lot of people didn't like it, but I could see this as a good thing. I could see her taking some time off soon to get married to Seth Rollins, and possibly getting attacked backstage by Shayna Baszler. Really get some heat on her, take some time off, get married. And in the meantime, maybe Shayna Baszler can just destroy the whole women's division, just get a lot of heat. A couple months down the road, Becky's music hits, boom, big pop. And you got this feud started back up. So I don't know. What do you guys think about that scenario? Thank you.
Hey Tim, so thanks so much for that, and that's a good point as far as Becky Lynch leaving. I didn't even really think about that as far as Becky Lynch taking some time off. I know that it could certainly help her taking time off if the goal is to keep her a babyface. If the goal is to turn her heel, well, they've certainly got a lot to pull from with her arrogance and her goat jackets and her semi-trucks that she drives apparently to every arena with her face plastered on it and talking about how the greatest of all time she is. And basically she escaped Shayna Baszler. So, Shayna could run roughshod again, get her heat back. It's certainly possible. And talk about how Becky escaped her. She didn't beat her. But Becky Lynch taking time off may be the best thing Becky Lynch has done for her career. And so I'm on board with it. I like the thought. So thanks so much, Tim, for becoming a patron and for the question. All right, everybody, let's get to the WrestleMania review with Zach and with Mary as we tear it down with our WrestleMania review. Welcome to night 2 of the WrestleMania review, as part 2 is going to be covered right now with Mary Grater and Zach Smith that have never done a podcast in tandem with me before. So this is also a first, as my podcast was just too big for one night and I had to do 2 separate reviews. So right now I'd like to welcome Mary back to the show and Zach. So Mary, I'll start with you. How's everything going? You hanging in there with this whole lockdown that's in effect and starting to adjust to our new lives as we're all quarantined?
I'm doing the best I can. Dealing with older parents sucks. And yeah, I mean, it's the new norm at this point, right? I was in New York last week for work, which was kind of weird. They asked me to come in this week, and I was like, I'm going to hold off because crap's supposed to hit the fan this week. So, yeah, I'm just trying to, keep myself busy, work out, do my schoolwork, which I really have no desire to do right now because who wants to learn Spanish in the middle of an apocalypse? And, doing chores and stuff like that. So I guess I'm adjusting as well as possible. I'm a homebody, so it doesn't really bother me being home all the time. But, when you can't go anywhere, it kind of sucks.
No, I hear you, and it's like an introvert's dream right now. I mean, like people, and I'm an introvert, so I'm kind of loving this. It's starting to actually wear even on me. Believe it or not, I am a very big introvert. So, well, that's good. I'm glad that things are starting to settle in a little bit. And I know I heard the same thing about this coming week supposed to be the peak of everything, and we'll see about that. I mean, there's so much unknown. But Zach, how about you? Are you hanging in there and in quarantine? I'm sure.
Man, I am. It's Matt, it's Mary, it's Zach, it's the team up nobody knew they needed, but here we are. I am doing fine. I am actually also an introvert, so this has been fine for me, but I actually work at a grocery store down here, and so my wife works at a hospital, I work at a grocery store, so we're the last two people that are going to be going home. So it has been more or less normal because I'm the same. I'm a homebody, but I mean, we're still working to get everybody everything they need, but I mean, I'm certainly adjusted to it. I think it's definitely weird and hard to kind of wrap your head around, but it's not totally different from, what I've been doing, just working the podcast. So it's been an adjustment, but I think we're doing good.
Well, that's good to hear. And you guys are, I mean, seriously, like anybody that works in a grocery store is in healthcare, you guys are the last ones out there. I mean, that's it.
We're not closing for anything.
No.
Yeah, we're staying. Yeah.
No. Wow. Well, props to you guys. Stay safe, obviously. I mean, I don't know how bad it is down. You're in Florida, right?
Yeah, I'm in Florida. It's funny because we adjusted our time, so we open at 8 a.m. and every day now there's been about 50 people like lined up outside, and they all like run in at the same time. And I'm like, I don't think that's going by the quarantine guidelines. But I mean, it's been funny to see, and now everybody has a mask on, and it's very interesting.
Wow, yeah, that is, and I've seen so many funny memes about when you're fighting people in the aisle for toilet paper. One of them was when Stone Cold returned back in 2001 to save the WWF, and he's just plowing through everyone, dropping stunners, and it was just so many memes you could attach wrestling to. So, well, definitely, to you and your wife, both stay safe, and let's jump into what the hell happened last night. And overall, let me just get your overall thoughts. Number one, I'll ask Mary, how are you liking the 2-night format? Did you like it? And what did you think overall about the WrestleMania show? Not just part 2, but just the whole, 3.5 hours a piece type of structure.
I think the 2-part thing was very much more easy to digest. It would have been a little different if there was an audience there, I don't know if they could do 2 nights with that big of an audience, but it was much easier to watch. I liked it. I mean, you have to take it for what it's worth right now. They're doing the best that they could, working in these weird circumstances. And it was very weird watching matches like that with no audience. So like Charlotte last night, Charlotte and Rhea Ripley was kind of annoying me at first because I rewatched it today. I rewatched everything today except Drew Brock. But like, last night, it was just like they were just screaming the whole time. And you don't realize like how much you don't hear them when there's a live audience covering it. So that's an adjustment. I don't feel like it's been that way so much on Raw and SmackDown as bad, but I know that they were like giving it 110% last night and Saturday because they were trying to put on entertainment for everybody who's stuck at home right now and show what they do. But I didn't hate it. I mean, again, it's for what it was and what they had to work with, and like I guess like making the arrangements last minute and doing it. It was good. Did it feel like WrestleMania? I don't really feel like it felt like WrestleMania. There's just nothing that can replace or replicate having hundreds of thousands of fans reacting to your match. And I was watching some of the matches and I was just like, oh my God, the crowd would be going bonkers right now if they were there. So, the audience is as much of a part of the show as the wrestlers are, and the stage production and not having the really long ramp. I saw that they snuck out or showed sneak previews of some of the wrestlers' entrances that were supposed to happen when they were supposed to be in Tampa Bay. So that was kind of disappointing and stuff like that. But, I mean, the best part that came out of all this were the produced pieces that they did for Bray Wyatt and John Cena and Undertaker and AJ Styles. And everybody's raving about it. I agree. It was entertaining. It was different. And it kept you invested, and it was very, very creative. It showed you the good side of the production team at WWE. So overall, I liked it. I mean, it seems like every match was good for the most part. There were some matches that were kind of boring and I could have done without. But I mean, night one with Owens and Seth Rollins, and the ladder match between the three guys, the triple ladder, those matches were insane and they were really good. And I don't really have any complaints about WrestleMania.
Zach, what about you?
I tend to agree with Mary on that. It definitely didn't quite feel like WrestleMania. And I know for the last couple weeks on the NXT podcast, the thing I would do up front, because there was really no other news, was kind of previewing WrestleMania. And obviously we knew there wasn't going to be a crowd, but my thinking was optimistic in that while there's not going to be a crowd, and Mary's exactly right, that definitely takes away from a lot of what they did. I felt like the WWE was at least going to be able to play around with the production, and I saw a lot of it on NXT where they would start doing things differently. And I feel like it gave them a chance not only to do those produced pieces that were mini movies in Bray Wyatt and the Undertaker's matches, but it allowed them to film it differently. And Mary's exactly right. You could hear the wrestlers in the ring, and I feel like it adds a different element to it that you wouldn't have gotten otherwise. So obviously you can't replace, hundreds of thousands of fans, in the arena going crazy for things. But I think given the cards that they were dealt, I feel like they pulled off something special, and it didn't feel like WrestleMania, but it did feel like something that I haven't seen before. And that's what I like from wrestling, is seeing something that I haven't seen. And I definitely feel like I got that on both nights.
I do have to agree with you guys as far as how it felt. I mean, I think we take for granted how important that a crowd is to the presentation of a pro wrestling event. I mean, especially WrestleMania. It was at times hard to hear, and I felt for Drew McIntyre not being able to celebrate in front of 80,000 fans, screaming for him, and I felt bad for the guy after the journey he's been on to not get that adulation from the fans. But it was overall, I enjoyed the event. I certainly had some complaints, and I was very vocal on Twitter about them. I've since kind of walked back on some of that after watching WrestleMania and digesting it last night. And so I overall enjoyed it. They did what they could. I think they did the best that they could. Some of the things, again, were a little eye-rolling to me, and we'll touch on it. But, as far as people talking about this two-night format, I think everyone in unison can say that a two-night format in 3-hour increments is infinitely easier to absorb and digest, as you said, Mary, than having this 7-8 hour event that is just, you are asleep by hour 5, or you're just like, oh my god, how much longer do we have? And you're looking at the card and you've still got 4 more matches to go. This was easier, but I don't think that when they go back to a live audience format, hopefully sometime soon, and for next year's WrestleMania, that they'll do that 2-night event, because there's a lot of logistics that come with that. You're going to have people rent hotel rooms maybe 1 or 2 more nights than they normally would. So it's an extra expense for people that attend. Plus, WWE would have to rent that stadium for another night, and that's a hefty amount as well. So I don't know how they would, from a logistics standpoint, do a 2-night format once they get back to a stadium, but I certainly enjoyed it, at least for what it was this year. And, at least they put a smile on my face, of which Stephanie McMahon was making sure that we knew that they love to do every single time that her face would pop up. I can't stand that. But anyway, no. I'm ready to jump into the matches, because we got a lot to cover. I'm ready to just jump into this. And I'll start at what we saw last, and that is the WWE Championship match with Drew McIntyre and Brock Lesnar. Mary, go for it.
Like I said, I didn't get to rewatch it. That was the last thing right before we hooked up to do the podcast. But watching it the night before, last night, it seemed a little rushed. I feel like it was shorter than it should have been. But it was just two brutes kind of going at it. I knew Drew McIntyre was going to win, and like you said, it kind of took away from the crowd not being there from his win, because the place would have went nuts. Somebody finally conquered the beast at WrestleMania. How long that's going to last, I don't know. I won't be surprised if Brock has the title back within the next year. But it was an overall good match. It was a lot of the matches that happened were slobber knockers. It was they were trying to make up for what they normally do. They were trying to make sure that they were brutal and they were real, more real feeling, I guess you could say, when they were performing. But I didn't have a problem with the outcome. I think that Drew was a good slayer to the beast. Like, it was more convincing than Seth Rollins being the slayer to the beast. And overall, it is what it was. It was a good match. Nothing like made me go crazy and stuff like that. It was better than the Braun Strowman Goldberg match. So, I mean, if you're looking at the title matches, but I really don't have any major complaints about it.
Go ahead, Zach.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. I think that the two people that were hurt the most by this not being in front of a live crowd were Drew McIntyre and Edge, which we'll talk about later. But I feel like this match, and I think it was only something like 4.5 minutes, it was weird because it felt like they still had the match that they planned on having in front of a crowd, and it feels like they didn't adjust, whereas I feel like a lot of matches adjusted for there not being a crowd. This one felt like it was still very much built on these two guys who have built this story, and Drew keeps getting the better of Brock. And then they have this, as Mary said, a slobber knocker of these two big hosses fighting it out. It very much felt like it was still built for all of that reaction. And it was still really cool. And it's that thing that wrestling can do where if you build a story right, you build somebody right, like Drew, I forget about all the stuff he's done before, and I'm just excited to see his journey back. And so it was still a big, emotional kind of moment for me seeing that pay off. But maybe more than anything except Edge's entrance, it made me wish there was a crowd just to hear them go crazy, because it was still very much built for that crescendo. So you still got it, but I just, that's the one time I really wish the crowd was there, because it definitely felt like they were supposed to be.
Yeah, this was one of those moments, like you said. I mean, it's just a glaring omission for the audience not to be there, which it just hurt. And there's obviously nothing anyone can do about it. But as far as the match quality goes, I mean, it was exactly what you'd expect. And, you mentioned, I think Mary mentioned it kind of being... or she did like it better than the Goldberg match with Braun Strowman, of which we never got an explanation how Braun Strowman got even an opportunity, but I won't even go there. But I think that match, if you just inserted Brock and Drew McIntyre into that, it's the same exact format. I mean, it was the exact, it's not just taking a page out of the book. They took the entire script from that match and just plugged it into Drew McIntyre and Brock Lesnar. And so it still worked, but it was the exact same match, just two different guys. And, the right man won. I think you could have made a case for Brock Lesnar winning. I actually picked Brock Lesnar to win because I think that I thought WWE would want Drew McIntyre to have that moment in front of fans, maybe at SummerSlam by the time we're all back, hopefully at that time. So I thought that there was a chance Lesnar would win, but I after Stephanie was just adamant about putting smiles on people's faces, I said they're not going to leave fans sour. So that told me right off the bat Drew's winning this, and I'm fine with it. I feel much more organically connected with Drew than I ever did with Seth Rollins as a babyface. So I enjoyed the kick out of the F5s. It was just, it's all finish, kick out, finish, pin. I mean, that's just what these matches are. You don't expect anything less. As JBL said the night before, these guys aren't working by the hour, and they are certainly not working by the hour. But Drew getting the victory, standing tall, reaching out to the camera as if he's kind of giving the fans a, hey, I'm here with you. I wish we could be together to celebrate this moment. That's what that told me at that time. That was a pretty emotional moment from his perspective and from a fan's perspective following his career. So I enjoyed this match for what it was. It certainly wasn't a 5-star classic, but it's pretty much a by the numbers, what's exactly you'd expect if you were going to lay out this match.
Yep.
Anybody else got any final comments on this match? You guys want to? Any closing comments, rather?
I mean, I agree with you in the fact that, I didn't think about the angle of Brock winning and saving the Drew McIntyre win for in front of an audience. I felt like there were a lot of moments. That's why I felt like there were no big returns or anything that happened last night and the night before. I mean, Bianca Belair was kind of like a weird insert just because I didn't think that they would have her, kind of do her debut, because I'm pretty sure she's going to be on Raw tonight. or on SmackDown this week. Like, because you want a crowd reaction for that. So, I mean, again, everything that you said is hitting the nail on the head. It is what it is. It was a fast match. I feel like it was way too fast. I really would have thought they would have gone a little longer just because it was more of an equal matchup. With Goldberg and Strowman, like, Goldberg can only do the spear, and that's what he did. He did 4 spears, and we knew that was going to be a really, really, really fast match, but that's my only complaint about it. I just wish Drew would have had the crowd reaction because I think the crowd would have absolutely loved it.
And they definitely would have, and that pop when he finally got the 3 count would have been great. And I do agree, Matt, that there was definitely a roadmap here where Brock kept the title. But I'm glad he didn't. I'm glad they went ahead and just pulled the trigger, not only because you don't know when you're going to be able to get live audiences back, and even once you can, you don't know how many people are going to be willing to come out, but I also didn't want to leave open the scenario where Brock keeps the title and then Drew losing devalues it, and then by the time we get to SummerSlam, Vince is already bored with Drew and moved on to somebody else. So I feel like it was important that they just went ahead and pulled the trigger now, because now you can work from Drew being a champion and he can get that reaction the first live show back, when I'm sure it's going to be like the Raw after WrestleMania on steroids for everybody. I'm glad that they just went ahead and did it, as opposed to the Roman thing where he loses and then it feels like kind of what's the point. I'm glad that they just went ahead and did it, and now Drew is the guy who he was set to be when he kicked Lesnar out of the Royal Rumble. So I was still glad to see it, but I mean, obviously we keep saying it. You just wish there was a crowd to see it.
And as we move on, I mean, it seems to be that Brock just kind of goes into a hole and then into hibernation and then comes back around the SummerSlam season. So as Brock Lesnar goes back into hibernation and we have Drew McIntyre here, hopefully on a weekly basis, I anticipate that, as WWE champion, my thought is that he could possibly have a program with Seth Rollins. I mean, maybe they'll wait on that until SummerSlam. That's definitely SummerSlam worthy. There might be a Brock Drew rematch at some point. They could revisit that at SummerSlam, but at least in my mind, what I'm looking forward to, I really am looking forward to a Drew McIntyre Seth Rollins program. I know that we had Seth Rollins lose clean to Kevin Owens in what I think was one of the best matches of WrestleMania the night before. So I think at some point they'll get there. Seth has some repairing to do and getting his heat back, but I'm looking forward to that whenever it happens. And right now, as we speak, I would think that Drew McIntyre is out right now. You would, I think, want to start the show with your new champion. So I would think that Drew is probably out cutting a promo, maybe even talking about how he wishes we were there. I mean, and something along those lines. And so it'll be interesting to see Raw, at least, for me, tomorrow is usually when I watch it. So, all right, well, let's move on. And guys, I need to take a deep breath on this and really think about what I'm going to say, because I'm so torn on this match, if I even can call it a match. And that is the FireFly Fun House match. John Cena versus The Fiend. And damn it, Mary, just go ahead on this. I need to take a breath, because I'm torn on whether to tear this one a new one or praise it. And there's a case to be made for both. I've read a lot of deep meanings. I think this match had more meaning than on the surface. And so I'm going to reserve my comments to hear what you guys have to say first. So, Mary, just take it away.
So you're turning it over to Conspiracy Theory Mary for
yes,
this?
Yes.
It's my favorite Mary.
Yes, I'm telling you, because you are the perfect candidate to dissect every part of this match, or at least give your overall thoughts about what this could be leading to, what this means, what that means. I mean, you're all about it, so this is right up your alley. Go ahead.
When I was watching, this was the last thing I watched before we joined together today to do our lovely podcast. When I was watching it last night, I was like, I don't even know what's going on right now, but I love it. Like, I dug the production pieces. I felt even though there was it was a street fight with Undertaker. I mean, that was a physical thing, but there was no wrestling. You're absolutely right. There was no wrestling in this whole entire thing in the FireFly Fun House, but the meaning behind it and everything, it draws so many questions. Like, there's theories running around right now about like what actually Bray's weakness was, which we've been talking about, on this podcast for months, like that people, Ramblin' Rabbit was saying there's a weakness, and somebody saying that if his opponent hasn't changed, then that's his weakness. He can't defeat him because what he tries to do is revert them to their strongest self, which we've seen with Seth Rollins and Daniel Bryan and everybody that he's faced. But he couldn't do it against Goldberg because guess what? Goldberg's the same shtick 30 years later. So John has been current John for a while now, but he was the prototype when he first debuted, and he was the Doctor of Thugonomics. So kind of going into the history of what John Cena was and what he was and who he is and what he could have done, I love the whole angle where they, if he would have hit him with the chair 6 years ago when Bray was asking for it and everybody in the crowd wanted him to do it, it would have been a CHT, a John Cena heel turn. And he didn't do it. And then them preluding that he is Hulk Hogan. They preluded that he was a lot of Hulk Hogan with the NWO stuff and him coming out as the leader of the NWO. And everybody thinks about, what could have been and if it was the right decision. And even John at the end of that match, that the voiceover was him talking about himself, saying that he was overrated and that he had every opportunity handed to him and he didn't really have to work for anything and that he should have put Bray Wyatt over 6 years ago. So the questions I had coming out of it was that whole thing, was that a retirement for John Cena or was that a rebirth of John Cena? Do we just see if John Cena comes back at any point, which I don't think we're going to see him. We might. I don't know. I don't really think we're going to because of everything that's going on and him being, an actor basically right now. Was that it? Was them showing him as Hulk Hogan in the NWO? Was that the heel turn that we've all been waiting for if he ever reemerges? Or was that him retiring? Was that him finally stepping away from the ring? Because right before this happened, John said he wasn't participating in WrestleMania this year. And that kind of seemed like he was bowing out finally from everything, like once and for all, not even doing part-time stuff. And then Wyatt came out and was like, nah, I got unfinished business with you. So I loved it. I thought the production was great. I thought everything was great. When Bray Wyatt turned around and started singing the Bella song to him, I was cracking up. I thought it was done really, really well. And you could argue that there was no match, but what were you expecting? Because if there was a match, I think everybody was still nervous that John Cena was going to go over, because it's John Cena. I mean, it's big match John, and he overcomes everything. But maybe running from his past and things that maybe he felt he should have done that maybe he didn't do for the WWE, for the corporation, for Vince, maybe personal feelings that he had about his character. We all know there was a rumor that he was, supposed to turn when he faced The Rock a couple of years back. Maybe that was the best way to go about this match and having everybody leave with more questions than finalities about what we saw last night, and that Bray Wyatt should have been the person to go over 6 years ago before he had to reinvent his character again. Because, Bray Wyatt, everybody remembers Bray Wyatt was, they buried him. I hate using that term, but he never got a leg up when he came up to the main roster. And there were a lot of matches that should have went totally different and they shouldn't have made him so hokey and stuff. This was hokey, but it was psychology 101. And I loved everything about it. The production was great. Everything was weird. Seeing John come out in his tights was just weird. And it was something that made WrestleMania worth watching because, like we said, it didn't feel like WrestleMania. But this just added a different level to it. It's something that we've never seen before. And it was more of avant-garde theater than it was wrestling, but isn't wrestling theater anyway? So I don't know. I liked it. I'm sure I'll remember more conspiracy theory points going along in this podcast. They'll come to me and they'll pop up. But my big question coming out of that was, did we just see the retirement of John Cena, or did we just see the heel turn of John Cena that we've been waiting for over 15 years?
Oh God, Zach, go ahead. I'm Go.
Stir the pot, Mary. Sorry.
Oh God.
Second favorite, Mary.
Yep. Go ahead.
So, Matt, I can hear it in your voice that you may have a dissenting opinion here, and I'll try and vamp so you have a little bit more time. But you could certainly have that opinion. But I agree with Mary that it was more avant-garde theater than a match. But I think that, again, when I was previewing it on the podcast and saying that they were going to be able to do something different, this is what I was hoping for. And from the first time I saw the FireFly Fun House first debut, and I didn't know what it was, and it was weird, and it's like Mr. Rogers, but it's got a dark tint. This is what I wanted it to lead to. I wanted it to lead to something weird. I wanted it to lead to something where if you have a non-wrestling fan in your life that walks in during that moment, it's going to be really hard to explain to them. But that's what I love about wrestling. I agree with everything Mary said. I'll take it a step further than that. This is, again, can't really call it a match, but this is one of my favorite things I've seen at WrestleMania, period. From the moment it started to John Cena playing to a crowd that wasn't there, to everything they went through, him coming out as Prototype, him coming out as Hollywood Hogan, him going through all of this with The Fiend. I was laughing and enthralled with it, and it was emotional just watching it through and just seeing the unfiltered kind of brain of Bray Wyatt going to work. And there was reports that John Cena made it very clear that he wanted Bray to get all of his ideas in, and it really makes me think that if you let talent that are exceptional kind of off the leash and do what they do, you can get spectacular results like this. And like I said, Mary liked it a lot. Matt, I feel like you're a little bit on the other end of the spectrum. This is one of my favorite things that I've seen. It was the highlight of WrestleMania to me, to see this weird avant-garde theater that wasn't even really a match. It was kind of a career retrospective on John Cena. You're right, it could be his retirement. He could come back different, and he should, from what he just went through. It was fantastic for me start to finish, and this was one of the big reasons that I wanted to be on the podcast. And before you even asked, I was going to try and barge my way on here because this was one of my favorite things I've ever seen. One of the things I like about wrestling is that things can be weird and they can be totally different. And this is the most different thing that I have seen. And this is something that you can do with a character like The Fiend or like Bray Wyatt. I don't think he should have had just a standard match with John Cena. In this case, I'm glad there wasn't a crowd, because if there was, you would have had a standard match and it would have been good, but it wouldn't have been this. And I'm so happy that there is this. I've watched this 5-6 times, just this match, and every time I see something new, and I just loved it. And Matt, I hope that I have cleared enough time for you to come in, because I feel like you're gonna bulldoze through this with a different opinion, so I'm gonna let you do that.
Okay, so you guys, and I've listened to your arguments, and I've listened to the reasoning, and I've listened to everybody's reasoning about how brilliant this was and why it was so great and why it was so original, and it was original, and what's revolutionary, and all of that, and how different it is. And I will say, out of my 25 years of watching wrestling, I have never seen anything like this in my life. And being that as it may, the knee-jerk reaction that I have is, what the F is this? And that's exactly what I tweeted out. It's what I thought, and I'm sitting there going, this is, initially I said, this is one of the worst things I've ever seen in my entire life on wrestling, including Katie Vick, including Triple H having sex with a mannequin dressed as Kane. I mean, I have seen some bad things. I put it up there, initially, I put it up there as just the worst thing that I've seen on the biggest stage of them all, and it made me cringe. And I said this too. I said, this is one of those things that if you have a non-wrestling fan come in and they're watching WrestleMania with you, because you have those non-fans that come in because it's socially acceptable to be a wrestling fan at WrestleMania time, we get it. And if you have that friend that comes over and they watch WrestleMania and they see this, and this is the segment that they would go and point to and look at you and go, this is why I don't watch wrestling. What the hell is this? This is the crap that I do not like about wrestling and why I don't watch wrestling on a weekly basis. And that's how I initially felt. And as I sit currently at 8:16 p.m., I still feel a little bit of that. Now, I think my biggest problem with this is, as a whole, I shouldn't have to think this hard as a wrestling fan. When I'm watching wrestling, I want them to tell me what the time is. I don't want to have to know how to make the watch. Just tell me what's going on. It does require a little bit of thought sometimes to see some of the angles going on and that, what's happening and what possibly could happen and the intricacies of it. But this was on a whole nother level that I have never, ever dealt with in my brain, that I shouldn't have to think. I don't want to use that much brain power when I'm watching wrestling. And maybe that's my own fault for dumbing down my brain when I watch wrestling, for not having to go in and dissect everything that's going on. I looked at this as it wasn't a match. Like, let's be honest, it wasn't a match. It was it was basically Wyatt being the master manipulator, taking John Cena on a journey that contradicted everything that he said, and referring to Cena as a bully, and then showing him the doctor of thugonomics, right? Like, he went through so many different things. There was so much thought clearly put into this, and I respect that. I understand that. And it was a journey into the mind of the Fiend. The second that John Cena came out and he said, welcome to WrestleMania, and then all of a sudden he's transported or teleported to the FireFly Fun House, I said, oh, crap, here we go. The second he was teleported, I said, oh, no. I mean, I knew what they were going with, and I said, this is going to be, again, I said, this is going to be one of the worst things I've ever seen in my life, because WWE has a long history of running from their own identity as a wrestling company. I said this in my last show about the AJ Styles Undertaker match, which in retrospect I've learned to love a little bit more than I did. And so when WWE runs from their own identity and they love to do these like cinematic type of presentations rather than what they are, and that's a wrestling company, I usually 9 times out of 10 hate it, because they run from what they are and they're almost ashamed to be a wrestling company. And they'll tell you, oh, no, we're not a wrestling company, we're sports entertainment. Well, first of all, there's no such thing as sports entertainment. That's not a thing. Like, you can't be sports entertainment. Sports are entertaining, but there's not a sports entertainment genre that they like to tell you there is. When you actually break down what that phrase is, wrestling is what the entertainment is. So wrestling is the sport that's entertaining, right? So, I mean, I'm not even going to get on that. I'm going to go on an hour on that. But this match that I'll call loosely a match, if I actually sat down again, I think, and watched it and tried to look at it through the lens of, okay, I see what Wyatt's doing here. I understand. Maybe this is trying to see John Cena for who he is, expose him for what he is. And if it does lead to a John Cena heel turn, then I'm more on board with it. And maybe if I sat down and went frame by frame and go, okay, I see what they're doing here, I understand. Maybe it is one of those things that the more I watch it, the more I'll like it. And I'm sure John Cena also liked that he didn't have to go out and take a bunch of bumps. I mean, he had to take, a couple Sister Abigails, which, I mean, my grandmother could take. I mean, it's not that hard, right? So it was just a level of suspending your disbelief that I haven't ever had to touch in my wrestling career as a fan, right? I've never had to suspend it to this level and to go along for the ride at this level ever. And maybe that's my own bad and my own brain working against me. And so overall, I mean, I honestly don't even know what to rate. If you're going to ask me to rate it, I don't know. If I was going to rate it right now, I would say it's a C. Maybe a D, C minus a D, because just because I've never seen something like this before, and maybe it's my own stupidity or my own non-willingness to open up to something so produced, such a level of I have to take my brain out of my body and just displace it in order to understand what's happening, and to not just understand what's happening, but also to go along with what they're doing and be okay with how silly this is, that John Cena would dress up in an NWO shirt. He would be the Doctor of Thugonomics and no one's there, and suddenly Bray Wyatt has teleportation powers, and like all these things that like my brain goes, no, this is not it. No, I can't handle this. So like the frustration throughout this, my wife actually came in and she was leaving me alone the entire night. She comes into the room and goes, "What is this?" I said, "I don't effing know." I said, "I seriously do not know what's going on. I've been watching wrestling for 25 years. I said, I have no idea what the hell this is." So, I don't know. Maybe it's me just dumbing my brain down or whatnot, but there it is. I'll stop before I start cussing.
Okay, so I'm going to counterpoint. Sorry, I want to counterpoint real quick. So, okay, you're saying that, like, you had to, like, think about this. Haven't we for months been analyzing everything that Bray Wyatt does in the FireFly Fun House, Matt? Like, we were sitting there talking about alarm clocks with dates on them.
Yeah, but we weren't talking...
I don't think that you had to, like, suspend it, too. Like, you knew... That's the thing of Bray Wyatt. That the whole Funhouse thing is, like, yeah, you're suspending your disbelief and stuff like that, and I get that. But, like... going back to John Cena and everything that we've dealt with John Cena, his peaks and his valleys, and there were a lot of valleys for a long time where nobody wanted to see John Cena whatsoever because it was John Cena wins, LOL. He always wins. Like, how do you take down such a polarizing character as his? Nobody's been able to stop him. Nobody has stopped him since he has turned into this John Cena ever. And having a retrospect look of his career and where he went wrong or where he could have gone different, I think this is the only way that you could have had a match with Bray Wyatt, because as excuse me, I'm getting wrong. As we said, you would have had a standard match and there was always going to be this worry that John Cena was going to win. And, like, was it going to be a 5-star match? Probably not. I mean, what, just having Wyatt as a Fiend come out and, like, destroy him and that's it, and then we go, la, la, la. This was the dissembling, like, taking John Cena apart, because that's the only way you'll ever stop John Cena. Like, I think you have to look at it. I mean, he called him Superman. You do need to go back and watch it, because I think there's a lot of things that you were like, oh, my God, I don't know what's going on, that you didn't pick up on, like, what they were doing and stuff like that. So I just don't understand that, like, how you think that, like, you're using your brain more, because ever since Wyatt has come into this character, the Fiend, we've been overanalyzing everything he does and thinking there's a different message for everything he does. So it's not like it was something that you weren't used to. Am I correct?
I was used to it, but on a much smaller, less intense scale. I mean, we were just talking about FireFly Fun Houses that would happen for maybe a couple of minutes, and you could dissect some things that he did, but he didn't have teleportation powers. We didn't need to be on acid to see what was going on. You know, we didn't have John Cena pretending to be the NWO or pretending to be Eric Bischoff, and I get all I understand some of the analogies, but you're talking about the FireFly Fun House that was a couple of minutes versus 15 minutes of an acid trip. I mean, that's what it was.
I mean, it was an acid trip, but at the same time, like, teleportation powers, The Undertaker can, you know, summon fire and lightning.
He can summon. No. He can summon fire and lightning, but during the match is fine. But we have not seen now wait a minute. We've seen Undertaker do that. No. We've seen Undertaker do that in his post-produced cinematic presentation. I'm talking about basically a movie. It was a movie. It was not in the ring pro wrestling. Those are two different worlds. I mean, Undertaker summons lightning and smoke and all that kind of stuff.'s done teleportation. Kane does. I mean, we have many people do that before. But Bray Wyatt did it to a level that was, I mean, it was common. It was a cartoon. I mean, to me, it was a damn cartoon. I don't need to see this stuff that you just go, no, like, that's not a thing. I had enough issues with the Undertaker AJ Styles match that I've come to learn a little bit better. I mean, it was like NXT produced the AJ Styles Undertaker match and WWE Kevin Dunn produced the FireFly Fun House. Like, to me, that was kind of the analogy.
Don't you smear my favorite segment by putting Kevin Dunn in that, Matthew.
Kevin Dunn.
Don't you dare.
Well,
here's the thing, though. It was super weird. It was something that you can't quite wrap your brain around. But if you think about this character that we've grown to know over this time, Bray Wyatt is a guy that was a cult leader character that was super sure of himself. He goes through all of this stuff. He loses to John Cena. He convinces himself in his head that everything started going wrong when John beat him. Now, that's not necessarily true, but that's what Bray has convinced himself as. So just in the context of this story and this character, when we first saw Bray Wyatt, he's a guy who now lives in his head, and he's got a FireFly Fun House. So if you're Bray Wyatt and you lose to this guy who you think you're better than, or you're more creative than, or if you had been given these chances, then you would have done this with them, and it wouldn't have just been standard Super Cena nonsense. If you think that however many years ago this guy beating you was the start of the end, and as Bray Wyatt, who was crazy before he was Mr. Rogers, and you've now had 6 years or whatever it is to stew about this and to think about it, you would go through, well, he's going to say, welcome to WrestleMania. I don't want to see his long entrance. We're going to go through that. He's basically Hollywood Hogan, where the babyface has never quite get their comeuppance with him, or nothing ever quite shakes him. And ever since he was the prototype, he's been a stupid character. And that ruthless aggression and the punch, if Angle had just ducked, this could have been different. Or during the Doctor of Thugonomics, all he says is corny raps and these nuts, and so I'm going to give him one more chance, and he's going to do the same thing again. Or he's an old school character like a Hulk Hogan, where it's not about your talent, it's not about anything that you necessarily do out there, it's that you're a 6 foot whatever super muscled guy who can lift a lot of weights, and Vince loves that. Or if we're actually in the ring and I Sister Abigail him, that's going to be the end of it. Or now with this Fiend character, I now have the power not only to take him down. At this point, if I'm Bray Wyatt and I'm an insane person, I don't want to just go out there, have a 20-minute match with you and beat you. I want to show you what you are to me. This is the same thing he would do as the cult character, where he would run somebody down in a non-coherent promo, except what you saw on WrestleMania Night 2 is Bray Wyatt's fantasy. It's when you are having an argument with somebody and 20 minutes later you think, I should have said this, or, I should have done this. It's Bray Wyatt's fantasy over 6 years of going through John Cena, and the best way to beat somebody like John Cena is not to just fight him in the ring, because the next night he's just going to say, well, he was the better man, blah, 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 blah. No, I'm going to tear down every part of your career that's been comical and that you've really had to shut your brain off to understand, and I'm going to dismantle it. And at the end, once I have shown him everything that is wrong with him in my eyes as an insane person, I'm going to stick him into the mat, and I'm going to go off the air with a defeated John Cena, not only physically but mentally. This is what an insane person would do if they had 6 years to think about it.
Good analogy. I'm giving a clap for that.
No. I have no issue. From the premise of what the Fiend stands for and what his mission is, it's really about vengeance, it's destruction, it's revenge. I stand for all that. I am all for that, and I understand the structure of what the Fiend was going for to attack John Cena in his brain, to show him what he is to Bray Wyatt and to a lot of people, to show him on an existential type of way, hey, this is what, if you were standing outside of yourself, what other people see you as. I understand all of that. I think that in of itself is what is great of this whole thing. If there is something great about this, that is what it is great. If something comes of this where John Cena actually turns heel from this, and this isn't just a one-off of, let's do something wacky with the Fiend and something acid trip with the Fiend, then I'm more on board with this. If there's actually something and somewhere this is going and not just a hot shot, if there's a destination for this fine. If this is a one-off, then this gets a F from me because of the fact that there has to be something from this. You can't do something of this magnitude with a star of like John Cena and have no follow-up with John Cena. This cannot turn into nothing with John Cena. Otherwise, it's just, okay, cool. He showed us everything that John Cena has become or has, in terms of sinned against the people. Here's how we view him. Here's why we don't like him. Here's what we think about him over the last 15 years of his career. Then it goes nowhere. Okay, then that's a one-off. Then I go, well, why? I mean, so there needs to be a destination. I'm not about just hot-shotting stuff. So if the Fiend as a character is about attacking the mind, and he has, as many other characters have in the past, playing mind games. This guy is to the extreme. I'm all for it if this leads to a John Cena heel turn. If it doesn't and this goes nowhere, why? What is the point of this?
I don't think that it's going to go nowhere. Like I said, if John comes back, John is different. But it could have been the retirement of John Cena, too. That could have been John Cena's last match. And we might not see him for a while. Next time we see him, he could just, announce that, like, he's done because he vanished in the middle of the ring after, it was done. And you have to go back and listen to the John Cena talking over, the Fiend giving John Cena the Manimal Claw and then taking him out. Like, John was, like, basically bashing himself and airing all his mistakes. And like Zach said, I think that the only way that you defeat John Cena is not to have a match with him, because you're right. You come up on, the next night and be like, oh, the better man won, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. Like, remember when he was supposed to retire versus, who was it? What was it, Brock or somebody? And it was when he was getting divorced, and then he, like, came back a week later, and it made no sense. Like, John would show up and be like, oh, yeah, well, the better man won, but, I never give up, and I'm going to get him next time. The only way that you get somebody like that and you destroy them, you actually beat them, is to break them down mentally. And that was the only weakness that John Cena has had. Like, you have to mentally disable him and make him not be so confident and sure in himself, and then you go after him. But I don't think that this is it. Again, if it's it, I think it's more of a retirement angle than John coming back and being John, like being John Cena, LOL. Like, I don't think that's what's going on here. I understand, like, your qualms with it, but, like, again, for what we were going on with WrestleMania, and for them not to have those big moments with the crowd or returns or that huge pop that, Edge should have gotten when he came out, they had to do something different, and I'm glad that they did this different, because you're acting like this is like almost like the House of Horror matches with Randy Orton. Like, you remember how bad those were, right? You remember the lantern, you remember the whole world in his hands, right? This was nowhere near that bad. Like, this was actually something that you could wrap your head around and be like, all right, with this new character, this is what he does to his opponents. I mean, this was the extreme, but it's John Cena was his appointment. He had to go to the extreme. He didn't have to work that hard for Daniel Bryan or for Seth Rollins or for any other person that he's managed to turn back in The Miz, turn back into their best selves, you know what I mean? So I don't know if my personal favorite John Cena is Dr. Thuganomics John Cena, and I like his phony raps. I thought he was amazing when he did those things. He cracked me up. But that was the best John Cena. He was most creative and stuff like that when he was doing those things. I mean, draw in John Cena for the last 15 years, and he's been the same guy. I mean, the only time we've ever really, like, seen him, like, do different was when he had CM Punk as a dance partner, because he had somebody that, like, was his, anti, his other end, his equal, So, I don't know. I don't understand why. I understand why you're crapping on it a lot, because it wasn't traditional wrestling and it wasn't a match. But, like, all given circumstances and everything that they did, I think they did a hell of a job with it. And I don't think anybody was expecting anything else. If they were going to do something quirky, it totally couldn't go the House of Horrors, match route. It had to be something different and intriguing. And I was glued to the TV the whole time, even though I had no idea what was going on.
So I'm all for the message. Here's where we find common ground. The message, the undercurrent of exposing John Cena and seeing him in a different light. I am on board for that. I am on board for seeing John Cena's career in 15 minutes from the perspective of Bray Wyatt and his warped mind. I'm on board for that on paper. I'm also on board for if this leads to a John Cena heel turn. I've said that. I think the biggest problem for me, if I was going to sum it down, is one word: believability. And when I have to take my brain to watch wrestling and I put it on the shelf, it's like I put it on the eye level shelf. With this one, I had to put it in another room on top of the top shelf in a safe and to understand what the hell was going on. And again, if I go back and watch this, I may have slowly more appreciation for it. But I think in the presentation, it's how they did it with John Cena playing along and sometimes looked like he was just kind of winking and nodding, almost not fully invested, kind of in a wink and nod type of way that took me out of the moment. When John Cena's screaming like 6 times, ruthless aggression and swinging and missing and swinging and missing, you could almost see that he had like a kind of a smirk on his face, like this is kind of stupid. And I'm thinking, John, yeah, this is. Like, I mean, that is my problem. Emotional investment, believability, those phrases. I don't care what the whole path is to where you want to go. If you don't have those things, I'm off the train. Get me out of there. And so when this had zero believability in terms of presentation, in terms of the message they're sending. Thumbs up. Thumbs way up for the message they're trying to do, the objective, the mission that they're trying to accomplish of exposing John Cena. Totally get it. I'm on board. But when John Cena is playing along, and I can't get on board with that because it just looks silly with him playing along and oftentimes looking at him like, yeah, he doesn't even know what he's doing right here. Or like he is clearly not believing in what he's doing right now. I could see that. And so that's the biggest thing I had was John Cena all of a sudden didn't have control of his body. He was just playing along like a puppet. That what he was suddenly now we're going into a level of, was he actually possessed? Are we going into that deep that, okay, the Fiend is a demon, so did he actually be possessed? So that John Cena had no control of his body and he's changing into 8 different outfits in 10 minutes and I don't know. Maybe I'll have a better time watching this over and over and over, or my hatred may grow. I don't know. But if you don't have believability or you don't have emotional investment, I'm out. And I don't care what the message is. As great and as awesome as the message is, and I'm on board with that, and that's really the only common ground we have here. Get me out. So I'll leave it at that. And before I go off the rails, and we probably should move on. But you guys
but we also had Demon Vince, man. That was the best part of it, is that they broke the fourth wall and they had the Vince. I know this is a PG show, but
I know what you're going to say. That was funny. That was funny.
That
yes.
was hilarious.
Yes.
I was cracking up. I mean, Demon Vince. Anytime I get to see Vince McMahon with devil horns as a puppet,
agreed.
So
I'm
great.
Totally
the line was great. Yes. And when John Cena said that you're a slut for opportunity and you're blowing every chance, that was pretty funny. I'll give him that. Like, that was pretty funny. John Cena as Dr. Thugonomics is always entertaining. I'll give you that.
Always. So Matt, just to be clear with the discussion that we're having and making sure I understand, your position, you liked it a lot.
This was probably, this is my top 3. I mean,
that's what I thought you were saying, but
I know I'm kind of being foggy,
so I had to dig in. Yeah.
I know I'm not telling it like it is. So I don't know. It's definitely one of the best things I've ever seen. No,
Okay, cool.
No, this is not.
I don't want to hear your rant about the Undertaker match because I thought it was fantastic. I think that was the best Undertaker match showing that we've seen in years, because he wasn't the Undertaker and he was the American Badass, and it was a dirt down, just drag out fight, and I thought that AJ was perfect for that role.
Like I said, with that match, I am much higher on that match than I was originally coming out of it. I've learned to appreciate it. I know what it was. It was honestly the best thing that could have happened to The Undertaker, given that if it was in an arena with AJ Styles in front of 80,000 people, it probably wouldn't have been as good. So I'm fine with how that came about. Again, believability, emotional investment, those are so key. Otherwise, why watch a TV show? Why watch a movie, especially pro wrestling? If I don't care emotionally about what's going on or have any kind of believability, I'm gone. I'm out. Take me out. So I think that's the whole thing. I guess it wasn't my flavor of how I would have presented this angle. I get what they were going for, but when you have John Cena playing himself and all. There's just so many levels of unbelievability. I couldn't get through the first few. I just said, wait, what? And then I go, I'm out. Like, I just like put my hands up. So, I don't know. So, I'm sure we could go on for an hour and a half about this, but let's move on. Otherwise, this show will be 8 hours. Jeez, now I'm all hyped up. So I'm like Mojo Rawley and Gronk right now.
Oh my God!
You should never be like that.
So I was, like I said, I was hoping somebody would push them off the balcony. I mean, like
they were like the two old men from the Muppet Show, like up in the balcony, like during the matches.
The two old guys,
like completely weird.
Yeah, it was just God.
He's
somebody
such a
needs.
Dweeb, man.
Oh, God, I hate Gronk and Mojo so much.
He's a dweeb. He's such a dweeb.
I describe Gronk as the guy that is in his 40s that hasn't got over college yet, and he still thinks he's the head, like he's like the president of his frat. Like he is the ultimate old man that still thinks he's cool in college, and I just can't handle that. I can't handle it. If you're going to put him as a heel, great. Like I think he's a perfect heel, but don't come on the host and tell me that he's supposed to be the guy that I'm supposed to get hyped for. And then you have his sidekick Mojo. I mean, I'm going to stop. Okay. Last man standing match. Edge and Randy Orton. I'm going to take a breath. I'm going to toss it to Zach. What did you think about this match?
So, this I was very excited to see Edge back, as everybody was. That's not exactly out there take. And this is probably the best promoted story that they had going into WrestleMania. You felt everything that Edge was going through. 9 years out, never thought he was going to have a career again. It's past Eddie Guerrero dying. It's the hardest I've cried like a baby when he retired. I don't care. I'll say it on a record. Cried like a baby the whole time. He finally comes back. He's the kind of grizzled. He's got gray in his beard. It's really cool. He comes back. Randy Orton, perfect opponent, a guy that's got all the talent in the world, but if he's not into it, he doesn't really give 100%. And so this was one of the matches that I was most excited to see, other than the Firefly Fun House, which we all agreed was great. And
unanimous, yeah.
Yeah, obviously. And we go into the match, and during the first parts of the match, obviously, as I said, my first thoughts were, man, I really wish there were a crowd just for this entrance, but I'm not going to keep belaboring that point because we could say that for just about everything. The match was a very interesting last man standing in that they brawled kind of all over. There was some innovative stuff. If we're talking about believability, there were some things where it was like, all right, what are we doing? And I think that obviously, not a new take, but I think that the biggest problem with it was that it was so long. And I don't understand. It was almost like Triple H every year at WrestleMania, where you're sitting there and you're like, why is this match 30 plus minutes other than this guy thinks this match can be 30 plus minutes? I feel like you could have done this match and taken time off of it, and it would have been more concise and would have been more emotional if you had given it less time. Generally at WrestleMania, I'm a proponent for giving everybody a little bit more time because they have more time to tell their story. This did not need to be 30, 36 minutes of a last man standing match. It got to a point where I was checking my watch, like, how long has this been happening? Where I'm very excited to see this story play out. I was in for it, but at a certain point, I just couldn't keep going along with it because it kept going and it kept going and it kept going and it kept going. The right guy won, and I'm super excited, obviously, like everybody is, to have Edge back. And Randy was perfect for this, and you wanted to see him beat up Randy. I don't understand why it was so long.
Mary.
I agree. I think it was a little long. It seemed like it drags out, and exactly what you said. We could sit here and say, I think the whole worst part of this match was not having the live audience for Edge to come out to, because it would have been one of those pops that like you don't think you'll ever hear. But I didn't have a problem with the match. It was brutal. It was a slobber knocker. I hate using that term a lot, but this was a drag down fist fight, and you could see the hatred and the animosity there, and there was a lot of emotion going towards it. They had a couple cool spots. I love how they used the whole entire NXT Performance Center and stuff like that, but again, it was another match I don't really have a lot of complaints about. It did seem like it was really, really long. I think it was excruciating too long for a last man standing match, because the whole point is to, disable your opponent so they can't get up. And I mean, they were going through some stuff that I wouldn't have gotten up like 15 minutes into, but I'm also a 100-pound girl, so what do I know? That was my overall complaint about it. I liked the finish. I'm glad that Edge went over. I mean, I don't think anybody thought that Edge wasn't going to go over. It had everything that it just seemed like there was a lot of visceral feelings towards each other. Even if in Randy's mind it was because he was doing it for his best, interest, for Edge's best interest and stuff like that. But again, I thought it was a fantastic last man standing match. I mean, sometimes last man standing matches come off kind of like, that was it, or they use some kind of stupid prop to keep the person down, or it's unbelievable like that, and they pile stuff on the person, or they tie him to something. And they didn't do this. This was literally, I'm going to beat the crap out of you, and let's see who can get the crap beat out of them the most. And you're scared because Edge is, Brady new. He's back in, and he's had a lot of bad injuries and stuff like that. And Orton's always never really been out. Orton's never really had a major injury that, he's been taken out for a long period of time. So he is an Iron Man, and the fact that he is the company standard. You want to be Randy Orton and be in his position at this point in his career where he is a general, I guess, of the locker room, and he has, cemented his legacy and stuff like that. But overall, I thought the match was fantastic. I thought the spots were great. I liked what they were using. I loved how you could see how much pain they were in. And this was one of those matches where there wasn't an audience that it added to it, because you could hear the excruciating pain that they were in. And they were supposed to be in excruciating pain because they were beating the crap out of each other. So other than the length of it, I didn't really have any problems with it.
All right, so this is going to be a much calmer review on this match. I think I generally agree with most of your points about the length. I think that's a pretty standard analysis that most people have said that this was just way too damn long, and it was. It was. I mean, my God, it really just kept going and going and going. As much as we've anticipated Edge's return, the length was, I think it could have been cut by 15 minutes. I mean, really, it could have been half that length, and it would have, I think, gotten a better reaction from people. I also don't remember a last man standing match in which the entire match ended or was backstage. I know there was a little bit out in the ring. That's where it started with an RKO. I was a bit disappointed that the match didn't start with Randy and Edge going face to face, and Edge just staring him down and then just brawling. I know what they're going for with Randy in the cover up of a black outfit and giving him an RKO, and then another one as kind of like the heelish attack from behind. But that's not the time to do it at WrestleMania. It's time for mano a mano, and to get that moment of finally Randy's gonna get what he's got coming. And it was brutal, and yes, you could hear all of the audio from that. I don't know why there's a cage type of setup in the conference room of the performance center. I don't know, but it played perfectly into the match where he did an elbow drop off the top of the conference room. That was pretty funny. I feel bad for the people that have to actually go through every place that they went and sanitize everything, because with everything going on, they're going to have to do that. So whoever is doing that, I do not envy that person or people, of which there are probably many, or if there's one person, it's going to take forever, because they touched about everything in the performance center. It was brutal. And having the spear on top, I kept waiting for them to circle back to the ring, because that's typically what happens with matches. You'll have start in the ring, it goes backstage, and then you end the match in the ring. And I was waiting for that, because to me, I would have done that. I would have brought it back to the ring where everything started, and then have the finish there. But it ended at the top of a production truck, and we got a spear, we got a chair shot, and obviously the concerto. I don't understand why Edge would hesitate or have himself be conflicted with the notion of delivering the concerto back to Randy. I think they were going for the hesitation of, well, this man was one of my best friends. Does he really deserve this? Well, there should be no hesitation. There should be no hesitation. This guy RKO'd your wife. He attacked your neck. He was trying to retire you again. He said that he loves his kids more than he does. I mean, there should be nothing. He should have hit a concerto for every time he mentioned his kids. I mean, there should have been multiple concertos. No hesitation. Well, what is the worst thing you could do to another man? Attack his family. So what is he hesitating for? He should have been literally trying to kill him. So I didn't like that. He should have been delivered another, maybe 3, 4, 5 of them, to be honest with you, and put him in the hospital. I mean, so outside of that little thing, it was what it was. I was okay with how it ended, and we got the victory. But this is the one that, man, in front of crowd would have. This one was especially hurt by the lack of people there, because it would have, I think, give the fans a real good feel-good moment. And for Edge, you come back after 9 years, you're imagining that WrestleMania moment in front of 80,000, and you get crickets. I mean, right? So I felt bad for him on that level, but I don't think this is the last time we'll see Edge. I expect Edge to return, and from what I understand, he signed a 3-year contract with a few matches a year. So maybe he'll be back in time for SummerSlam, Money in the Bank. I don't know, but I'd give this match a B. I mean, the length really, really hurt it, but I'd give it a B.
Yeah, I think that's fair, and I think it is fair to say that it was a very good match that just went too long. And I was surprised that it went so long, because it's Edge's first match back, and you would think you'd want to, kind of have a more abbreviated version of that match, just because, I mean, I would, if I were Edge, I would have been winded 2 minutes in, but I'm also, a fat guy, so I would have been winded anyway. And I just would have thought that it wouldn't have been 36 minutes. But I mean, it was an excellent match for what it was. It was just too long. And like we said, with a lot of this, it was hurt by there not being reactions. It was almost like when WCW would have hardcore matches, or WWF would have hardcore matches, and it would just go all through the arena. And I liked that aspect of it, that they kind of didn't go back to the ring, because we don't need a ring for what we're trying to do here, and I'm trying to hurt you. I liked it a lot. I just wish that they, like you, Matt, said, they had cut about 15 minutes and, there'd been reactions. And I don't think commentary helped it either. They were real subdued and didn't seem like they were excited to watch it. And I feel like with commentary, if you're not excited, why would I be excited? But I mean, for what they did a hell of a job. Both of those guys put their bodies on the line like nobody else on this whole card did. And, you just got to give them props for putting on a really good match.
Yeah, I mean, it sounded at times like they were commentating golf. It sounded like
exactly.
the Masters, you know? Like, it really, at times, did it. And maybe they were just like, well, how excited can we continue to be for 37 minutes? Fair. I mean, so maybe to that point, they couldn't be bottom of the ninth, grand slam type of call for everything that happened, because there was just constant blow after blow after blow.
Right.
The other thing, and then this will be my final comment on this match, that people are up in arms about, I don't know if you guys heard about this, is the beginning of the match when they were in the weight room, and Randy Orton ended up choking, or was it Randy? One of the, I don't know, I'm probably getting it wrong.
Randy choked Edge, yeah.
Yes, and it was done in a way that was kind of sensitive for what the Dark Side of the Ring reviewed with Chris Benoit. So I don't know. I mean, people are a little bit upset about it and are not happy with WWE's presentation of it, and I get it.
Yeah.
And maybe they weren't even self-aware of what they were doing. I'm sure it wasn't on purpose, but they probably could have edited that out with the 7 days lead time they had till they aired WrestleMania. So just something else I heard that was interesting, and I kind of agree with. Like, I would have probably stayed away from that spot. So.
Yeah, I agree. It was definitely, I think it's one of those things where you're just going through, and I imagine they didn't talk out everything that they were going to do, and you just see the setup, and, if I didn't know what I knew about what happened, it probably would occur to me too, to try and, choke him and use it that way. I definitely don't put any of that on them. I think they just reacted to the moment, and I'm sure before they heard about it, they hadn't even thought about it. But I definitely agree, Matt, that that's something that if you're thinking about it, you should. And with how vigilant WWE has been with not including anything about him after they found out what happened, that's definitely something where you had plenty of time to edit. You could have cut that.
Yeah, agreed. Okay,
I heard
moving
that
on.
they
Go ahead.
didn't cut anything out of that match. That's why it was so long. I don't know why they would fail to cut that out. And I honestly think, like Matt said, that it wasn't. They weren't thinking. It wasn't like a malicious thing that they did. It was just trying to use the props that they had around them.
Yeah.
I think I did think of it when I was watching it live.
Me too.
It was kind of a fleeting thought. It was just like really, really quick. I wasn't like actually like, oh crap, oh my god, So yeah, it's weird that they didn't edit it out. It's just weird that they didn't edit the match down at all, because I'm hearing that they didn't edit anything out of that match.
Yeah.
No, they clearly not. No, nothing. Nothing. So, all right, moving on. NXT Women's Championship match: Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair. Charlotte Flair winning the NXT Championship. So I'll give my quick thoughts on this. Honestly, I don't have a whole lot of analysis on this because I love this match. I thought it was maybe the match of the night, you could argue. And Charlotte Flair winning is, I think, a positive. I know people would say Rhea Ripley's been on a roll. She's the face of the women's division in NXT, all that. And I agree. But what happened here was, number one, they're trying to get more eyeballs on NXT, because NXT lately, especially even before the whole coronavirus outbreak and the whole format of empty arenas, was getting demolished pretty handily by AEW on a weekly basis. So bringing Charlotte Flair, name brand value, into NXT certainly helps the brand. I don't think she's a needle mover, but she certainly adds credibility to a product that has really, really done a great job of establishing itself as a true third brand, and not just the feeding ground for the quote main roster. So I think it's a good thing as far as bringing Charlotte Flair as the champion for that particular reason. With Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair here, they certainly destroyed the Shayna Baszler Becky Lynch match. I know we're not reviewing that, but I think if you put them side by side, it's not even close. This was a purist wrestling match. I would love to see these two lock up again. I hope we do. The chemistry was great. I'd give this match an A. Just everything about this, the psychology, the pacing, the physicality, everything, the timing, the length of it was just right for me. And I really think that these two blew it out of the water and was easy. I mean, again, you can make a case for the match of the night. And so, as from a wrestling perspective, this was certainly the quote best wrestling match of the night. Anyway, so for me, so you sound like you want to say something, Zach. So go ahead, your turn.
All right. I get to disagree with you now. This is fun.
Do it.
I absolutely agree. It was the wrestling match of the night. I don't think that's too much in dispute. I think that they had a fantastic match. I think Rhea is fantastic, and I think Charlotte is fantastic in the ring. I don't know if some of this is just that I've never been the biggest Charlotte Flair fan. I don't dislike her. She's just never done anything for me, and some of her title wins have felt hollow to me. That might just be a personal thing, but I was really, really excited to see this match because for Rhea Ripley, since Survivor Series and that takeover, we've been building a story with Rhea Ripley, and she is the one that dethroned Shayna Baszler, and she's on this roll, and she defends against Bianca Belair, and then for the first time, you have the Royal Rumble winner challenging the NXT champion, and that story was very good in terms of not feeling like Charlotte took a step down, but that Rhea's the one that stepped up to challenge her, and she's the one that took it. And I loved watching the match, but a lot like with the match with Asuka that was fantastic, I just don't understand why Charlotte needed to win. I understand your point of kind of bringing something to NXT. She's definitely going to bring a different dimension, but I don't think that NXT needs it. I think when Charlotte has been on NXT, it hasn't affected the ratings in any significant way. I think that when you have somebody like Finn Balor, who feels like an NXT superstar come back, he assimilates himself. I feel like I don't think of Charlotte Flair as an NXT superstar, and she feels like somebody that isn't supposed to be there. And I feel like rather than have this be, for no discernible reason to me, Charlotte winning the NXT women's title that she did not need under any circumstances, you could have used this to keep Rhea Ripley in a stronger spot, and then Rhea with that elevated position can then go back and have these matches with NXT talent. I'm always okay with Charlotte winning the title. It's certainly believable. I just really don't feel like it needed to happen, and it was a bummer to me that you see Rhea Ripley tapping to the figure 4, the figure 8. It was a bummer in for me, and should have known when Rhea came out dressed as Vegeta that she was just going to lose. It was just kind of a bummer.
So while I agree with both sentiments that it was a really good match, I had no problem with the match. It was believable. Rhea was selling that leg like a superstar.
Mm-hmm.
I always love when they actually remember that they're hurt and they, favor stuff throughout the whole entire match because, you've been working that leg the whole entire time. Why aren't you limping? I'm 100% with Zach. Again, Charlotte didn't need the win. Nope. Charlotte didn't need the win at the Rumble. Charlotte didn't need the win now. She's already won the title 10 times. She's already a 10-time champ. She broke Trish Stratus's record, and I'm still saying that Trish is the greatest of all time because of the way that she came up. It just, when she wins things like this, Matt, not to disagree, I understand what you're saying with the NXT angle, but all the points that Zach just said, she's not an NXT star. She is a main roster star. She is Teflon. She doesn't need help or a title to elevate her or show that she is the best. She is the best. She is the best overall women's wrestler on all the brands right now in the shortest amount of time. Like, everybody forgets that Flair has not been around for that long. Like, and she's already a 10-time champ. Why does she need an NXT title? Like, to have Rhea win it and show that she's a dominant force, she's the one who dethrones Shayna Baszler, and let's not even get in, as you said, to Shayna Baszler not beating Becky Lynch at Mania, because what are they going to do with Becky Lynch right now is the question after that. Charlotte being completely flustered that she loses and going after Rhea for the next couple of months could lead you through SummerSlam. If you're going to put the title on her, make her work for it. Show that you're the best. Maybe this blue chipper beats her because she's a little stronger than her. It was a good storyline with Rhea cutting the promo and saying that she was always compared to Charlotte when she looked how she did when she first debuted in NXT or came to WWE. But again, no, there was no reason for Charlotte to win the title. There was absolutely no reason for her to win another title. So now what? She's an 11-time champ in how many years? It's just that force thing again. It goes back to what we were saying about John Cena before and Roman Reigns. Like, when you know that somebody is just like, this is what Vince wants and this is what Vince wants it to look like and this is what Vince wants to be the face of the company and the dominant person all the time, it takes away from the greatness that they already have. Great characters always have to struggle and fight and claw their way up to get where they are. That's why everybody loves Daniel Bryan so much. Yep. And Rey Mysterio. And I could go on in a list. But no, I mean, the match was great. When she won, did I go, yep, well, I wasn't surprised. Because it's typical WWE booking. They don't ever do something risky. And you would figure in the environment that we're in right now in WrestleMania and trying to do things different like they did with these matches that were movies, that weren't matches. And they would take risks in this because you know what? They're moving storylines on and they're going to have more options because it's going to get kind of boring when you keep, eating the same thing every night for dinner. Does that make sense? Like, I just, there was no reason, first of all, and I'll go back, there was no reason for Charlotte Flair to win the Royal Rumble. She should have never won the Rumble. She could have won it in 2 years and it would have been fine. She's Teflon. She doesn't need anything to make her more proven that she is the best. She's freaking Ric Flair's daughter. We know. We get it. And that's why she doesn't need these things to elevate her. Shayna Baszler winning the Rumble would have been way freaking better. And I mean, and then if she, but they messed her up already too. It's just, again, Matt, I'm disagreeing with you now. There was no reason for Charlotte. The Charlotte win bothers me because there was just no need for it. It wasn't like Charlotte Flair was going to lose to Rhea Ripley and she was going to get knocked down to the bottom of the division and fight the Iconics whenever they come out of the rock they're under, and oh, poor Charlotte Flair. Yeah, okay, Charlotte Flair don't care. She don't need it.
But, okay, so I see the perspective you're coming from, and so what I would say is I think you're putting the focus too much on Charlotte and not what the bigger picture of what and why they did this. Because if it can't just be about Charlotte because of all the reasons you just said. She didn't gain anything as a character from winning this. She wouldn't have lost anything if she lost it because you said she can bounce back from anything at this point. She has reached that level of being able to, if she wants to, turn it on. If she wants to turn it off, it's not going to hurt her. And Rhea Ripley, many people would go, well, why didn't Rhea Ripley win? She was the one that needed to win and put herself over against Charlotte. I don't think so because Rhea Ripley right now is still on the ascent. Rhea Ripley is the face of the women's division on NXT. But now you have Charlotte Flair. As you just said, your own words, she is the greatest right now of all time in the women's division as we speak currently. So if you take the greatest and you put her on NXT, you have Charlotte now able to work with a whole new roster of women to be able to focus on the women's division of NXT. And it's not about Charlotte right now. It's about the bigger picture of the women's division in NXT. You have now the greatest, as everyone has said and kind of agreed, you have the greatest woman that WWE has to offer inside of the ring right now. That could be argued, but you have at least the way that she's been presented on NXT. So now she has, 10, 12 different women that she could work with on a nightly, weekly basis and get them over to that next level. Have them try to challenge Charlotte Flair. It elevates the women's division on NXT. It elevates the NXT championship. It's not necessarily about Charlotte Flair. To me, you could argue Charlotte Flair took a demotion for this NXT championship. When you put it against the SmackDown and Raw Women's Championships, yeah, it probably stacks third just in how there's the longevity, the lineage, all of that. So to me, it's the bigger picture. And yeah, the one little thing I'll say about the match, I liked how they focused on the leg and you work the leg the whole match, and Rhea sold the hell out of it. But then there's times where she sells how much it hurts, and then she's doing a moonsault with it with no pain. I mean, so that you could say that about a lot of different matches where they pick apart.
On your leg when you're doing a flip in the air.
Yeah, I mean, like you're landing on it, and then you land perfectly, your leg's functioning just fine, and then you're like, oh yeah, it hurts, I mean, like, we see that all the time. I mean, they sell it when they're laying down, but yet they're able to use it fully functional for any maneuver that they want to use it for. I mean, like, that's been a wrestling sin since the beginning of time. But again, it elevates the NXT title, it elevates the women now in NXT, that Charlotte has run through everyone on the quote, main rosters of Raw and SmackDown. What interesting feud would Charlotte want to have right now? Asuka? Nope. Becky? Hell no. I mean, like, who could she work with that you'd go, that's a match I want to see? No. Now Charlotte can go to NXT, be able to elevate everyone on that division. So that's how I look at it. Because if you look at it as Charlotte, I'm with you. No, Charlotte doesn't need any of this. It's about the bigger picture, I think.
I mean, but my counterpoint to that is that, I'm sorry, the NXT women's division is the best women's division in all three of the brands. They don't need her. I think they are the most talented out of all of them. We saw them rip through everybody in the fall. There are many people that are on the women's rosters on the main cards that don't get any play. Why couldn't you have Charlotte Flair start going and wrestling these people that don't get any airtime and have them trying to chase her to beat her? Like, it doesn't always have to be about the title, but I don't think that the NXT division, the women's division in particular, needs Charlotte Flair. I think they're doing fine right by themselves. And when they get to the main roster, that's when they get lost on, everything else. Lost on the sauce, whatever the term is. I don't know. I'm just ranting right now. But, like, that's when they start to falter, is when they get up to the main roster, because they do focus too much on the same three people. Becky, Charlotte. I mean, Asuka is starting to, but Asuka's still super white hot right now, and Asuka should get a title soon. So I just think that it's a disservice to the main roster for all the people that have gotten called up from NXT that were doing quite fine when they were in NXT, and now they're, gone in oblivion and stuff like that. There are other ways to work it. I don't think the NXT women's division needs Charlotte Flair, and that's just my final.
They don't need her, but you know what helps any roster? Star power. Star power has always been the key to success, and they don't need her. They're not in bad shape by any means. The women's roster is an all-star in terms of athleticism, absolutely, but it's star power that will always sell tickets, that will always help other women elevate another woman, and that's what Rhea Ripley got. Even in this loss, Rhea Ripley, some people probably went into this going, who the hell's Rhea Ripley? Doesn't watch NXT, and goes, wow, she can wrestle her ass off. And now they know who she is, and now that she lost to the best that WWE has to offer, there's really not, you could argue that didn't actually hurt Rhea Ripley. And now she's going to go back to NXT, and you bring the star power, which is the key to this whole thing, of Charlotte Flair into NXT, and it elevates everyone. They don't need her. They're not going to fall without her. They're not going to go into, the abyss, but they certainly, it can't hurt. And again, to me, that's, I don't know, that's how I look at it.
It just feels like it's not supposed to be Charlotte, but everything I've seen from WWE to this point has been Charlotte. And while I do understand the concept of a main roster person coming back with the title and elevating the other people, my concern is that they're not going to use Charlotte to elevate other people. They're using the NXT title and roster not only to elevate Charlotte, but to get her off of Raw and SmackDown, because like you said, she has run through a lot of the women's division, but Becky Lynch got over on her. But other than that, I mean, from Asuka to all the people she's beaten, I don't know that everybody comes out in a match with Charlotte Flair necessarily better than they went in. My concern is that the same as it would have been if Finn Balor had come back and won the NXT title right away. My concern is that Charlotte Flair is just going to be the champion and she's just going to run through the division. Now, I hope that I'm wrong and that they use this as an opportunity to have other women get over and this isn't going to be a long-term thing. But my concern with WWE and Charlotte is my same concern that I generally have about WWE and Roman Reigns, just like WWE and John Cena, just like WWE and Hulk Hogan, where they're just setting up people for Charlotte Flair to work with, not setting up other people to work with Charlotte Flair. So if they go the route of getting other people over using Charlotte Flair, I'm absolutely on board, Matt, with your plan. My concern is WWE hasn't shown me a lot to make me think that they're going to do it that way.
I think that's a fair point. I mean, again, time will tell. We have no idea which road that they're going to take. If it is all about Charlotte Flair, I'm with you guys. I think that's total crap, and that the women's division in NXT is actually, I think, de-escalated from that because now it's all about Charlotte and everyone else is beneath her. But if they elevate women to have great matches and someone eventually takes it off of her in a couple of months, fine. And then Charlotte goes on her merry way, and maybe there's a roster shakeup at that point, and she can come back to Raw or SmackDown. But if it is all about Charlotte and she becomes the Roman Reigns of the women's division, then no, I am not on board for this. I guess I'm more optimistic about the win and viewing it as that. And you guys may be totally right. I may be right. I guess time will tell. Okay, let's move on here to the Raw Tag Team Championship match. The Street Profits versus Angel Garza and Austin Theory. I really don't have a whole bunch on this. To me, I really don't. I mean, the Street Profits win as they should. I didn't expect Angel Garza or Austin Theory to capture the Raw Tag Team belts, given the Street Profits had just gotten them, and they seem to be on somewhat of a hot streak. So, I mean, the match was okay. I didn't have a whole lot to say about it other than Zelina Vega is still the MVP of the match. I mean, she just is always the damn best, and they need to do something with her. Seeing her get laid out was interesting. It's very rare in which somebody actually gets over on her, so that's interesting. Bianca Belair and all that. So, yeah, I mean, my quick analysis is, because I don't have a whole lot to say, is the right team won, and Zelina Vega is the MVP, and we move on to whoever the Street Profits are going to face next. I mean, Mary, what do you think about this match?
I basically say there wasn't a whole lot of substance to the match. The right team won. I don't think you take the titles off the Street Profits anytime soon, because they are definitely fan favorites, and they bring a lot of fun and energy to the roster in general, and they're just an interesting tag team. But yeah, I mean, the two takeaways from this is Zelina Vega getting laid out by Bianca Belair. So we have Bianca Belair debuting, and I'm pretty sure I've been looking at Twitter while I've been talking. She was on Raw tonight. Mm-hmm. So maybe moving forward now Zelina is finally going to start wrestling because she is a wrestler. She's just a goddamn good manager, and that's why they have her in this. And I think the other takeaway is that I didn't know that Andrade had gotten injured, and that's why Austin Theory was stuck in this match. But it seems like she's building, like I'd said a couple of months ago, her own little like corporation, like her own little faction, very much Heyman, what he did back in the day with his guys. And she's picking up these stars, and she's taking them under her wing, and she brings, stuff to them when she's representing them as their advisor or whatever term they use for her. So I think that's the good takeaway of it, is another person added to her arsenal of people, because now she's got 3 people under her wings, and I want to see how she builds on this. I thought it was going to be a strictly Hispanic faction going forward, but obviously Austin Theory is not Hispanic. So it's just interesting to see that she's doing her own little recruiting of people. And it's been a long time since we've had a manager managing different people. It's always just one person managing one person. It's cool when, they have other clients, I guess you could say. Those are my takeaways from it.
It is cool to see it. And it's interesting because WWE's always been, or rather in recent years, has been kind of opposed to the idea of managers. And I've never really gotten a concise answer as to why, because Brock Lesnar doesn't work without Paul Heyman. Brock Lesnar's voice doesn't lend itself to that. He's not a good promo generally. And you have Zelina Vega as like the MVP of every match she's managing, and she is the reason that Andrade is as big as he is. Without Zelina, he would still be faltering in NXT, which he was before she showed up. And she's doing a really good job. And I think, Mary, that you're right, that it was going to be kind of an all-Hispanic kind of stable, and I think they pulled the cord at the last minute. I've talked about Austin Theory a few times on the NXT show in that he's very clearly very talented, and they see a lot in him. But what they haven't done a lot of yet is kind of get into his character. I mean, he recently, on his last match with Tyler Breeze, he kind of was a heel, and that's been a little bit more interesting. But hopefully down the road here, with Zelina's help, we can get more of a character out of Austin Theory if he's going to be on the main roster now. And like you said, on, kind of keeping up with the show, he's on the show again. So hopefully Austin Theory can kind of get more of a character out of this with Zelina's help, because that seems to be her specialty. And she kind of talks you into the building, and then the workers work. And then, like I said, the only other takeaway is that seeing Bianca Belair, I was talking to somebody on Twitter who was asking about Bianca, and she interfered in that match, and I was like, it seems like a soft move up into the main roster. That's an interesting way to bring somebody to the main roster. Haven't seen a lot of that before. So, I mean, not a lot to talk about with the match. Seems like this will be the shortest one we have, but I mean, it's cool to see Bianca coming up to the main roster, hopefully, and it's always good to see Zelina being probably the best manager in WWE.
I honestly don't have a whole lot to add. I think we are all pretty much in sync about this match, because it was, I hate to say it was kind of a bathroom break match, but given the rest of the card, it kind of was. I mean, like, it was what it was. I don't know how there wasn't a whole lot of build to this match. I know that back a month or two ago, we were all looking at the possibility of a United States Championship ladder match with Angel Garza, Humberto Carrillo, Andrade, in this match, and I was looking forward to that, because I said that those guys could work an hell of a match, potentially steal the show. Obviously, with the situation as it is, things change drastically, and we get Austin Theory put into the mix, and Andrade's nowhere to be found as he's injured. So it was a fine match. It was kind of just a standard, you know who's going to win, as they should. Effort was there. It didn't blow you away. It was just kind of there, almost as like background music kind of a match. And I'm not trying to insult the guys, but it was what it was. I don't know how anybody could be super invested in this match emotionally. Yeah. So, all right, moving on, though, to the Fatal 5-Way Elimination match for the SmackDown Women's Championship with Bayley, Sasha, Tamina, Naomi, and Lacey. Zach, you go first this time.
So this one kind of has the same thing to me, where this match was literally thrown together. by Paige in storyline, and having Bayley have to actually go through all of these people that she's beaten. It's an interesting way to kind of do that, where she's run through most of these people, but now you're having to go through all of them. And I don't really have a lot on the match itself. It was fine, and everybody worked hard. It's just kind of the setup with Sasha and Bayley, and it seems like they're going to go forward with that. I thought that Sasha might win the title here for the same reason that Drew did, where they just kind of pull the trigger. But, I mean, they may be hopefully setting up for Bayley and Sasha. I don't know if it's at SummerSlam. I don't know if it's later down the line. But, I don't have a lot for this match either, other than I think it was good. I like Bayley as a heel and as a champion. I think she's doing a really good job of what she's given, and I'm excited to see how we get to Sasha Bayley, which it seems like we're setting up.
I thought it was a really good match for being thrown together. Still, again, they always have matches like this where you're like, why is this person in this match? And Tamina being in this match is like, why are you in this match? It's like she's injured and then she's automatically in a title shot match or some main storyline, and then she gets eliminated first. There was somebody else. It was like Sarah Logan in the match at Elimination Chamber. Like, why are you here? I don't understand why you're here. So, I mean, and she was eliminated first, but I think everybody did a good showing. I thought Lacey Evans was really impressive in the match. I mean, I was poo-pooing on her a couple of months ago, but it really does seem like she went back and retrained, and she's gotten better with her movesets and her spots, and she doesn't seem as lost as she was when she was first called up to the main roster. So I knew she wasn't going to win, but I was pretty impressed with her performance during the whole entire match. She was entertaining to watch, interesting to watch, to see how much she's progressed over the last couple of months. I really thought Sasha was winning this. I thought they were going to do the turn, because it's every woman for herself. And I've been saying this for months. Matt knows, the pairing of the two of them seems like it should be reversed. Sasha's the star. Bayley is more of the sidekick. Even though Bayley, the last couple of weeks, she's been getting super annoying and aggravating to watch. And I think that's what she's trying to do. And she's very arrogant. And I think she's becoming more comfortable in this character than she was in the original version of Bayley. So I'm not really mad that she retains. I just thought that they were finally going to do the switcheroo somehow. And this would have been a perfect spot for Sasha to win. And it just kind of be like, oh, well, it was every woman for herself. And Bayley get eliminated, by getting pinned by somebody else. So Sasha didn't have to pin her. So they wouldn't necessarily turn on each other. Do you get what I'm saying? So they would still be their team up as their partners, as they are as their best friends, but the roles are reversed, and Sasha should be the one with the title because she brings more to it, even though, like I said, Bayley is progressively, slowly getting better in her role as the champ right now. So, I mean, I was a little disappointed in that. I'm not really mad that she retained, but now I just don't know how they're going to do it forward, if they're just going to completely split the two of them up and they're going to end up becoming enemies, and then who's the face and who's, the heel, because Sasha shouldn't be a face, and Bayley's thriving way more as a heel than she ever did as a face on the main roster. So I just thought it was a missed opportunity to have Bayley get pinned in the match by Naomi or even Lacey Evans in a shocker, and then have Sasha win the title, and them not having the split up, and them just being like, well, at least we still have the title in both of our hands. You know what I mean? So we're still the top of the division. So that's my only complaint about it, but I'm not really mad about it. I just don't know how they're going to move forward with it.
I think they made the right move. I really do, because when you look at this, many people were anticipating Sasha Banks being the one to take the belt, and then there's tension, and then it's an automatic face turn. What they've done is take the slow road, which I love. I love that they basically just planted the seeds for tension to build with Sasha and Bayley, because now you have a case, if you're Sasha, of keeping your friends close and your enemies closer. And if you have a quote friend that you're close with, on the roster that's the champion, they would probably, number one, trust you more and maybe give you an opportunity to challenge for the belt. And so I think that is exactly what Sasha has done once it's revealed that, she is going to be turning on Bayley, which I really don't think is going to happen for a couple of months. I mean, I wouldn't say all the way at the SummerSlam. That'd be a little bit too far, but maybe the next pay-per-view, not Money in the Bank, but I don't know, whatever comes after that. I don't think it's King of the Ring. Is it King of the Ring? I don't even know. But whatever, maybe pay-per-view in June that we have. And so I like this. And also you have the whole Paige being returning tease. I don't know if Paige has any interest, nor do I know if she can physically go inside the ring. I don't know if it's going to be a feel-good type of Daniel Bryan Edge story where she's able to return from her neck injury. But there seems to be some constant follow-up with Paige about what she did about creating this match. And so I'm fine with it. And so if they take the slow road, I like Bayley as champion. You guys alluded to it. She seems to be naturally the sidekick to Sasha, but Mary, she does. She seems to be growing slowly into the alpha female, because you still look at Sasha and she just oozes a bigger star than Bayley. But Bayley seems to be finally digging her heels into what and who she is as champion. For a while, she was the silent heel SmackDown champion that she turned, and then we didn't hear anything from her for months and months, and you're like, well, what the hell did you do turning her for if you're not going to give her any follow-up? And now that they've finally dug back in with her, she's finally feeling herself. It feels like she's understanding what the heel version of Bayley is, and that's what's really starting to catch on. So I really do hope that Bayley holds on to this belt as long as humanly possible until eventually, which is predictably fine, and I totally am good with Sasha taking the belt off of her as a babyface, because when and how we get that turn, I think, is going to be very interesting to see week by week. See the cracks start to slowly form, and there's a spider web of cracks, and it's just a slow build. I'm always a big fan of that. So I'd give this match, like a B. If I was going to grade it, I'd say it was very good. And you said it. Yeah. Lacey Evans got a really, really good showing here, and being able to pin Sasha Banks, and then it's Bayley now, only Bayley alone, and the fire that she showed was good. Tamina, I mean, come on. Like, as you said, Tamina in anything is just like, what is she doing here? It's true, because she didn't do anything to earn this title opportunity. It was just kind of like, all right, well, who's left? I don't like that they just hand these out, especially at WrestleMania. So based on WWE's schedule of booking Tamina, we'll probably see her sometime in November.
That's fine with me.
She's probably got like a torn ligament or something from last night. She gets injured after every big match she has, so yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if they say she's on the injured list. I'm not like trying to knock her, but she's just very injury prone, But I don't know. As far as I have more theories about what's going on with the Raw title than I do with the SmackDown title. So I don't know what direction they're going to move forward with Bayley. But again, I didn't hate it. I just thought that it was a good opportunity to not split them up and them to still have the title and to have the roles reversed. And then maybe the cracks start then where Bayley gets jealous of Sasha. I think that would have been a better angle of it.
I'm with you. I can't complain about the outcome here. I mean, I don't think anyone can really hate this, because you got the look between Sasha and Bayley at the end where Sasha comes back and you're like, what is she going to do? And she ends up hitting her finish on Lacey Evans, and you're like, okay, I see what's happening here. But she kind of gave a stare to Bayley. It was quick, but there's something there that they're going to build on, and we all know it's coming. It's fine with a slow burn. Sign me up. I'm on board for it. I think it's an interesting story to tell than just flipping a light switch and then doing it right away when everyone thinks it's coming anyway, and then, well, there's no payoff, right? You've already paid it off. So to me, I like a story being built to a destination, and that's where they're going with this, I think.
Yep.
All right, let's move on, and we've only got a couple matches left, I promise. We have Otis and Dolph Ziggler, and so I'll give my quick thoughts on this, and then I'll toss it to Mary. Otis and Ziggler it's been a story that I've actually been enjoying. It's been the opposite of what was Lana and Lashley, and that was easy to follow. You're rooting for the good guy. You're kind of rooting for that underdog, that the guy that doesn't really look like he belongs with that super hot woman, and you're like, you're kind of rooting for him because there's not a really good chance, and you find out that she's interested in him, and then it ultimately falls flat because you have the jock of the sports team come in and swoop her away. And that's the story that they've told here, and it's been a very easy to follow, relatable, story that they told well. And Otis ends up finally getting his hands on Dolph Ziggler, and he gets the girl. He wins the match, as Michael Cole said. I don't like that he won with a caterpillar. I mean, like, that's all you're going to do is just do it like basically it's the Scotty 2 Hotty worm rephrased as the caterpillar with just an elbow drop. You couldn't have, I don't know, with all the anger and pent up frustration, and he snapped on SmackDown, he ends it with just like an elbow. I don't know. That's the only nitpick I have about it. It was a feel good, happy ending story. They finally kiss, and he walks out with Mandy in arms, and I was fine with it. I'm sure Otis in real life is probably like, hell yeah, right? Like, yeah, I mean, seriously, because not to make assumptions, but the reality is he's probably not making out with too many women that look like Mandy Rose in his real life. So he's probably going to cherish this moment for even in his personal life for many years to come. I understand it. I probably would too. So good for Otis. It was a feel-good moment. Ziggler got what's coming to him. He walks out and gets the girl. I had no problem with this. This was just a feel-good moment. They did what they were supposed to, and they put a smile on my face. So, Mary, what do you think?
I mean, this was the pee break match for me. I haven't really been invested, but I get what you're saying. All your points are right. The unattractive guy gets the girl over the jock. It's every 90s movie or 80s movie that you've ever watched in your life, coming of age, teenage movie. And you're absolutely right. I don't think that Mandy Rose would be making out with him. And that's me just being a jerk, because I'm a jerk in real life. But what's more interesting to me is the Sonya Deville angle, where we got the reveal the other day about what actually happened with the Valentine's Day date and how this all came out, and her doing the texting. And then, finally the glitches were revealed that it's some guy behind a desk wearing a dark hood, kind of, I guess, iRobot, whatever that show is on USA, which I still haven't watched. It's on the list. Kind of like masterminding all this. So my question coming at it is who is that? Is that a man? Is that a woman? Is it somebody watching the women's division? Like, it's kind of got that GTV feel to it. So it's this storyline that I really didn't care about, because it was just like, me and Matt were going back, and he was like, oh, well, obviously Mandy Rose isn't interested in him. She's going to end up playing him and then hurting him. But now he got the girl, or it looks like he got the girl. So it kind of went in a different direction than we were predicting it. But now you have this whole other thing that's going on. Yeah, you got like Sonya Deville and Mandy Rose now, obviously not friends anymore. And that's going to be a match moving forward. I don't know what her intentions were. I don't know if it's because she's in love with Mandy Rose. If you guys paid attention to Total Divas and hate watch it like I do, there was an angle where Sonya Deville was trying to get a lesbian angle between her and Mandy Rose as a storyline. So I don't know if it's because she's in love with her, because, she's out gay, and everything, and maybe she was trying to get Mandy, or she felt that Mandy didn't deserve somebody like that, because why is she helping Dolph out to, like, get Mandy? There's a lot of moving pieces to this. My question is who's the person behind the computer that is watching people and keeping tabs on everybody and revealing truths? And is it going to end up being female? Could it be a returning person? I don't know. I could throw conspiracy theories in this too, but they're kind of like reaching for straws. But that's my outtake of this match, is that I want to see where that storyline is going, and I hope they do it right and they don't kind of, poo-poo it out like they sometimes do with storylines that start off like this.
That's your cue, Zach.
Yeah, I was trying to think of how I wanted to do it. It is interesting. This was a story that was built well on SmackDown, in that it was kind of your classic. You knew it was going to be your kind of sappy, kind of feel good ending to the story. And for what they did a good job of kind of beating Otis down. And, Dolph Ziggler is like the perfect guy to use for this kind of story that they're doing. And, I agree, Matt, where the ending of the match was weird in terms of just the finishing sequence. But I mean, this is the classic WrestleMania, much lower scale Macho Man Elizabeth kind of deal, or, the John Cena Nikki Bella thing that we all know worked out great. It was just it was a good kind of feel good ending that you knew was coming, but it's still, fun to see. It's been really entertaining on SmackDown, and Otis is always just entertaining to watch, whether he's wrestling or not. And yeah, the person kind of going around revealing secrets and things, it's almost like an old GTV thing from WWF. So I'm interested to see kind of what happens from that, because I don't even know who it would be. But I mean, this part of the story was very fun. You knew it was coming. This is another one that was kind of hurt by not having a live crowd, because I feel like it got a good reaction online, but I feel like it would have been a great reaction in the building. But yeah, I mean, I like, little stories like this, and, it's kind of inconsequential for what's going on with the rest of the roster, but it's a good kind of little self-contained story that I feel like they did pretty well considering the circumstances.
Yeah, I'd agree. And you guys both alluded to it. The big question is, now that we got the ending, well, what's next? And what's next is the question of, who is that guy behind the computer? I hope I just said, I'm not a big fan of one-offs. This doesn't seem like it's going to be a one-off, given how many weeks we saw that, quote, technical interruption of those lights. I mean, it went on for, I think, months. So I don't think they would have just paid it off only for Otis and Ziggler. I think there's going to be more to it. And yeah, it's a 2020 version of GTV. If I know probably neither of you watch Big Brother, but my wife sometimes ropes me into Big Brother. And if you saw it, I think it was last season or the season before, there was something called The Hacker, and it was to the T. Exactly what WWE presented last night. I mean, it was almost to the point of like somebody just copy and pasted it from the show. So maybe somebody was watching it and goes, we need to do that. And it was just a little bit too ironic, but that's exactly what it was, with the dark hood, and you couldn't see the face. I was trying to make out the face of maybe even a nose or a shape, and I couldn't see anything, obviously. But yeah, it's going to be the who's doing this type of thing, and I hope they continue with that. And it's interesting. It's interesting because I don't even know the last time WWE did something like this. Beyond the whodunit over the summer, which ended up in a big old, fart basically with Eric Rowan, and ended up going nowhere. This seems like it could be something very interesting where, you have that hidden footage and something is revealed and the truth is going to be spoken, right? So I'm all for this. This is something that they can build on, and I hope it's not a one-off with just Mandy and with Otis. So, again, feel-good moment, but yeah.
I'm sorry. Keep going.
No, I'm done. I probably should be done. Go ahead.
I was just saying it's a storyline that can go to both rosters, though, too. It doesn't have to be necessarily just a SmackDown thing. This person could be watching everybody right now, so that adds to the mystery of it. You don't know who it is. I mean, I think that a lot of people were saying it was Mustafa Ali because of the light circular thing that he had on his thing, but like after that reveal, I don't think it's him. So
no, I'm sorry, Mustafa Ali is not that important right now.
Yeah. They're not going to build up something that big. It could be somebody returning. It could be a new person. I don't know. But the good thing about it is that it can breach over every brand. So like it could just be somebody watching everybody, and hopefully they can, if they're short on storylines, they can kind of expand this. And it's a good thing that they have in their back pocket right now, because it can create a bunch of storylines for them currently, especially in the environment that we're in right now.
So many things they could do with this. There's so much, and so yeah, they've got something here. They've got something, and I hope it's used when needed. I don't need to see this person on a weekly basis. No. Just all of a sudden you're like, oh, what are they going to reveal about this and this? Like it needs to be thought out. But I don't know what the payoff is other than who it's revealed to be. I don't know, so I would hope they have the destination before they start doing stuff and don't just do stuff to do stuff. But this could be interesting as hell. So I'm on board. All right, moving on. Only 2 more matches if you count the kickoff show. Aleister Black and Bobby Lashley. And my thoughts on this are the right person won again. And this match actually surprised me from a quality perspective, given that I haven't seen these two lock up ever in a live format. So anytime you put Aleister Black with anybody, it's going to be a good match. And Bobby Lashley, I think too, he changed up his look. And some people didn't like it. I have somebody that was texting me last night that said they didn't like it. I actually kind of liked the different look for Bobby Lashley instead of wearing the tighty whities. I mean, I was actually a big fan of the tights he had on. I really enjoyed that he changed it up, and Lana dyeing her hair. She's back. So something, even a small tweak like that can freshen him up. And so Bobby Lashley is a physical specimen. Aleister Black defeating him certainly just shows you where WWE sees Aleister Black going. This match came out of nowhere to put it on WrestleMania. This is not even, I mean, this is barely Raw worthy as far as, how they built it. I mean, let's be honest, this is not WrestleMania worthy at all. And when you look at what WrestleMania should be, but I was fine with it. This was a quality wrestling match. It exceeded my expectations, and Aleister Black won with Black Mass in one Black Mass, no kickouts, and the right person won, and it's going to elevate Aleister to the next level. So I'm good with it. Did you like it, Zach?
I did. The first WWE live event that my now wife was nice enough to take me to, we got to see Aleister Black when he was just Tommy End and he didn't have the whole character yet. And, you see the tattoos and you see the way he works. I hadn't seen a lot of him before, and I've been a big Aleister Black fan like most people since then. And so I'm always glad when he's in – you're right, it's not WrestleMania worthy, but – it does mean something to me when you're in a one-on-one match in WrestleMania. At least it's something, and he wasn't left off the show sitting in a dark room waiting for somebody to challenge him. And Aleister Black always has quality matches. It doesn't matter if you put him in there with somebody with a story. It doesn't matter if you just, build something up. He's going to have a really good match. And I've always been a big Bobby Lashley fan. I can't really tell you why. Just I saw his kind of first run in his match with John Cena. I think it was when he jumped at the steel cage and knocked it over on Umaga. I think I was a sucker after that. And so when he first came back, I was really excited to see what they could do with him, because in TNA he really did go to another level and become a much more well-rounded performer. And since then, he hasn't had a lot to do. He had the weird, Lana kind of Rusev story that we went through. He hasn't had a lot to do. And you're right, Matt, he did change up his look, and he's doing things a little bit differently, which is really interesting to see. And hopefully, like you said, again, this was not a WrestleMania match. This was this wouldn't be the main event on Raw. But hopefully putting these guys together, them having a really good match, kind of sets things up for them going forward. I'm ready to see Aleister Black moved up more toward the main event scene where I think he should be, and I'm more excited to see where they're going to take Bobby Lashley next, because when you put him in the ring, he's very good. You just got to give him the opportunity. And like I said, hopefully, best case scenario, this kind of acts as like a launching point for both of them, where we will start doing more with both of these performers that I feel like can add a lot of value to different, feuds going forward.
I don't have as much to put into this as you guys did. It was a good. No. It's just it felt like a filler match to me,
yeah,
and it
definitely.
was. I love Aleister Black. He's probably one of my favorites on the roster. So anytime I watch him, like you guys said, he's going to be a good match. I've never really had a problem with Bobby Lashley. It's just I think that I don't know how they still don't know what to do with him.
Yeah.
And that bothers me, because he is very Brock Lesnar type, where he's not very good on the mic. Yeah, we know he needs to have a manager. The Leo Rush thing was just grating to hear that kid talk all the time. And Lana just seems like such a mismatch with him. Like when she was with Rusev, it worked. It just doesn't work with him. And I made the comment last night, like, I know she dyed her hair. She looks weird as a brunette to me. She's a blonde. She's a blonde totally through. You just look at her and she screams blonde. So this is a girl talking right now. And then two, I made the comment of, I love how she went from sexy business suits to 90s style hooker dresses, because that's what she wears now. And I just don't know, I don't know what she's trying to do. I feel like Lana's always lost in trying to have her character, and I think she was best when she had a Russian accent, and she was Rusev's manager. So that being said, I still think it's a mismatch with Lashley. I still think they're missing the boat with putting Lashley with Heyman. That is just, been screaming since Lashley has come back. same prototype, same thing as Brock, and then you have a reason for Heyman to be on TV when Lesnar is not there. So I like his new look. I didn't mind the tights. He looked good, like whatever. Again, it was a good match. It's more the outside stuff that they're putting in and they're trying to do. But yeah, Aleister Black, I feel like he should be in the main event scene already. I think he should have been there a while ago. I think they got lost on him too. I think like they get like weirded out when they have like goth metal types. They just don't know what to do with them unless it's like the Undertaker. So like I feel like the WWE still doesn't know what to do with either of them. I don't think you really need to do much with Aleister Black. He is what he is. What you see is what you get, and I think that works for him. It's good that he's the strong, silent type, and he doesn't have to talk to get his point across of how dangerous he actually is. And it's the same thing with Bobby Lashley. Like, he's a big dude, and he's good in the ring, and he's a powerhouse. But the problem is that he does need somebody to talk for him. Yeah. So I just think that once they get the right manager, because I can't see them keeping Lana with him for much longer. Like Rusev was okay without Lana, which was surprising. He's funny and he changed his character up that he didn't need her anymore. But these three players in this whole thing right now are very, very, they don't know what to do with them. And they keep trying to change them and put them in different things. But I think Aleister Black out of everybody's gonna be fine, and they'll eventually figure out that guy is main event star and that he will be able to be what he is without any, like, help. As far as Lana and Lashley go, I think Lashley needs a new manager, and I think it should be Paul Heyman. That's my final thought. I've thought that, again, like I said, for years, since he's come back, whatever. And Lana, they need to figure out what to do with her, too. I think she needs somebody else under her wing.
Yeah, so Lana and Lashley, that storyline clearly played out. They have nothing left. They ran out of gas. They just go, okay, well, after that storyline ended, with her and Liv Morgan, and Liv Morgan was beating her, but nobody cared. And I was never a fan of that whole angle, especially Lana on the mic. I know people found her annoying. I found her annoying to the point of channel changing, not annoying in good heel heat. Mm-hmm. So Lana, pairing with Lashley, I'm ready for that to be over too. I don't know what the explanation is. If you saw at the end of that match, though, Lana looked at Lashley as almost like, how dare you, almost in anger, not in like concern for his well-being, but in anger for, I'm your wife. I don't deserve to be associated with somebody that loses. That's what I read in her eyes. Yeah. So that could be something that they play off of and work off of to eventually split these two up because, yeah, it's run its course. Let's move on. I mean, maybe even Lashley Lesnar. People have been talking about that forever. I mean, obviously you do have to do a lot of repair on Lashley and his character and build him up for several months. But the point is, I'm ready for Lana and Lashley to move on. I'm ready for Lashley to do something of substance. I'm ready for Aleister Black to do something of substance. And that's not necessarily world title, but get them in get them in a different program. Get them doing something different, of something that you can sink your teeth into, and you're not just going to look at them on a weekly basis and go, okay, well, this isn't a real program they're into. This is just kind of a Monday night one-off, and what they've been doing is just kind of one-offs. They're not in anything that's of any meaning. So I think we're all on the same page with that. The final match is really, it's the kickoff match of Natalya and Liv Morgan, and Morgan defeated Natalya. I honestly don't know what to say about this because it doesn't mean anything. I mean, other than Liv Morgan getting a victory over Natalya, which is a big deal, I don't know if it signals anything. It's on the kickoff show or the pre-show, whatever you want to call it, and Morgan wins. I mean, that's a little surprising given Natalya's stature and longevity and all that, and veteran status in the company. So you get Morgan a win, who desperately needed it after her transformation from pink to blonde, and being Lana's lover, and then going nowhere with that and losing to Lana, or rather being in matches with Lana that she didn't lose to her. But so I'm fine with this. It's a bit surprising about the outcome. It may signal that they're actually going to do something with Liv Morgan. Did you get that same feeling, Zach?
I did. This was like the ultimate in why is this a match? I found out about it on Twitter, and there wasn't a personal issue between them. There was nothing. They were just both excited to be wrestling. And I don't want to take anything away from that. I feel like if I were a performer, even if I'm on the kickoff show, it's still WrestleMania and you're still performing. And they did what they could do with it. But with a match like this where there's literally no setup and two people who don't seem to have ever really had an issue, I just don't understand why it needed to be a match. And when Liv came back, it felt like it was going to be something where, fans speculated she was going to be part of the FireFly Fun House, and then she comes back and she's put in this dumb angle with Lana and Rusev that doesn't really go anywhere. And so I'm glad that they got a match. And like you said, Natalya does have veteran status, and she's done a lot in the women's division, but I never cared. Natalya just never really did anything for me just as a performer. And so when they went into this match, it was like the ultimate, and even if it were on Raw, I wouldn't necessarily care just because I don't understand why this is happening. I don't understand where we're going to go from here. But I think that you're right, Matt, where hopefully this was just to get both of them on the show to have a good match, and then hopefully to kind of springboard Liv Morgan from there, because I feel like there's things that you can do with Liv Morgan. It just feels like she's been a bit of a holding pattern since then. And so hopefully with this, we can kind of move on and we can do more with Liv. And so while this match wasn't particularly, anything, the plus is that maybe we can use this as a springboard. That's hopefully the positive we can take out of it.
I'm going to be honest, I didn't watch the match.
We're not going to fault you. That's okay.
I just did homework, and I was like, oh, WrestleMania starts at 7, and then I was like, oh, crap, the kickoff show. But just from an outside perspective, I know Liv won. I do think that this was just a match to springboard her because, like you said, they stuck her in that Lana angle, and it went absolutely nowhere. They got a lot of bad heat from it because it seemed very early 2000s storyline. Am I surprised that Natty lost? No. It doesn't matter that she's a veteran. Natty is like the veteran jobber for the whole women's division. She's been overlooked the whole entire time she's been there. I mean, granted, it probably has to do with that she's terrible on the mic and she's a terrible actress. But she's a great in-ring performer. She's fantastic. I freaking love watching Natty wrestle. So other than that, I don't really have any comments about it. It's got to be something for Liv Morgan to, kick off on, and that's the only reason the match, as you said, there was no build up to it. It was just kind of announced on Twitter. So I didn't watch the match show, so I don't have any input about it, and sorry.
Your homework had the same heat that the match did. You're fine.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. Damn it. And Mary, I almost didn't have to use the bleep button. Oh, we got so close.
I'm
so
sorry.
Close. No, it's okay.
I've been really good all night. It's just,
I would have felt cheated.
Guys.
I would have felt cheated.
I'm from Jersey. I don't know how to speak without cursing.
It's all good. All right, so that was really it. I mean, that was part 2 of WrestleMania. I don't want to even get into part 1 because we were already 2.5 hours in. It's crazy how quick time goes when you talk wrestling. Oh, yeah. So, any final thoughts about WrestleMania in general? I'll start with you, Mary. Any final thoughts on anything that we didn't touch on, and maybe a quick reaction on part 1 or anything that you want to talk about?
My takeaways I just want to, because Conspiracy Theory Mary is here for 2 seconds with part 1. So Becky beats Shayna, and I'm just like, what? And I swore her reign was coming to an end. So I don't know where they're going with her forward because she's very much like Charlotte where she's run through everybody. Does this mean Asuka is going to get another chance at the title? I don't know if they're going to go back that route. I mean, she beat her queen. And that was kind of the end of that. Do we get a returning Nia Jax? Maybe. I mean, we've been saying Nia Jax has been coming back forever and nothing, like not even a bleep from her, Do we get a returning Rousey? I don't think we're getting that either. I mean, if she just beat Shayna, it works to be like coming back and asking for her rematch that she never got from last year and avenging her friend. Yeah, it works, but I'm still, they can't do it right now, though, because there's no freaking audience. And that's why I said there can't be any returns right now, because you're not going to get the return pop. And you always want the pop with a return. Any big return, you want to pop, right, guys? Am I wrong in thinking this?
Nope, you are correct.
So I don't know if they could do it right now, because we're kind of in this stop pause when we don't know when we're going to be able to be civilized people again next to people in public. But maybe returning AJ Lee comes back to take her throne and dethrone Becky. That's where I could see it. I also thought for 2 seconds maybe she was the person in the hood watching everything.
Ooh.
What if she's watching the women's division and she's revealing stuff? I feel like that guy watching stuff is going to reveal stuff about Sasha and Bayley, possibly causing the discord between the two of them, what they're doing behind each other's back, mostly Sasha behind Bayley's back. But I'm still, the Punk AJ Lee thing is still on the table as far as I'm concerned. Punk has been very much more open about returning. You see conflicted reports every now and then. He's talked about saying, I'm open to anything. I just haven't been presented the right thing yet. And I've always said that he's a businessman and he's not going to come back until he gets exactly what he wants. Mm-hmm. So if he comes back, you're going to get AJ, most likely, unless she doesn't want to wrestle anymore. And I still think that she did retire because of an injury, but she was kind of forced out the door by the mean girls in the back and that her husband is CM Punk. So that's my crazy conspiracy theory about Becky. If it isn't Nia Jax and it isn't Ronda Rousey, who is it, and who better to be the woman who started this whole entire thing and why the division is anywhere where it is right now, who never got worthy dance opponents when she was in the division. All right. Conspiracy theory, Mary off.
Yeah, conspiracy Mary's the best.
I don't know if you guys want to add to that, but that's all my thoughts about it. I thought night one was solid. I thought all the matches were solid, except, Braun and Goldberg, which I think Braun wouldn't have gotten the title any other way if he wasn't put into that match, because I think that ship had sailed already. It's going to be interesting to see Roman come back and take that title back off of him. And that's it. But I really want to hear what you guys think about my conspiracy theory. Other than that,
I love the conspiracy theory. I didn't even think of it, and I think that would be absolutely perfect. And you talk about return pops, I feel like AJ Lee would get a huge one, and I just feel like that would be such a cool way. Like you said, I think it was a great point that to have the person who started all of this and doesn't get the credit for it take the title back and make it hers again. I think that's a really cool way to go with it that I hope they use going forward. And then as far as WrestleMania, I mean, we touched on everything. My whole thing with WrestleMania was you're not going to have a crowd, so hopefully WWE can come through with production. And I feel like no matter what you thought of the individual matches and whatever you thought of the lack of a crowd that we've touched on in just about every match, I feel like WWE did a great job under the circumstances of taking a really, really bad situation and turning it on its head and working out different ways to make it interesting. And so while this isn't going to be compared to other WrestleManias in terms of reactions, anything like that, this was one of the more memorable WrestleManias that I can remember, and that's going to be my takeaway from this WrestleMania.
Anytime I hear conspiracy theory, my mind goes right to CM Punk AJ Lee with you, Mary. I mean, that's just one I know you're going to, because when it happens, I'm probably going to hear a scream from New Jersey up to upstate New York. I mean, it's going to happen. I really think it's inevitable for these two to eventually come back. And AJ Lee, as you said, is so underappreciated, I think, when you look at the history of the women's division. She was one of, if not one of the top 5 best talkers I've ever seen from the women's division. And to some degree, a lot of the men couldn't hang with her in terms of a promo. She had a presence. She could do mic drops at any time. She is the perfect sidekick. I shouldn't even say that. Perfect yin to yang with CM Punk. They just work so well together. Imagine them as a tag team. I mean, I could go on so many different tangents about how good AJ Lee is, and crazy is their superpower. That is true. I haven't read the book. I probably should. Is it? Yeah, I believe it. And so AJ Lee, yeah, people would pop and lose their minds. I just hope it's not in front of nobody. Like you said, I hope that it's when they decide and when it's safe to go back to a live format and have people there in attendance. But yeah, overall, my thoughts about WrestleMania, I mean, beyond I'm not even going to touch FireFly Fun House again, but the whole presentation was, I think, as best as they probably could have done. And, I was torn on whether or not they should do this based on the circumstances, but the alternative was what? Wait X amount of days. Well, how many days or how many months is that? We don't know. So this was really their only option other than shut down completely. And you know what? It is a weird format. It's a format I'm kind of like scarily getting used to, of not having fans there. So when fans come back, it's going to be an explosion. Like, I really believe that. And to have nobody there though on the Monday Night Raw after WrestleMania is just a damn crime. I love that audience. It's as Corey Graves would, or Michael Cole or Byron Saxton, whatever propaganda that they're forced to say about the fans of non-traditional, or whoever they cheer, they boo, and boo, they cheer, or whatever kind of crap that they like to spew this time of year about the audience that attends the Monday Night Raw after WrestleMania. I'm going to miss the chants. I'm going to miss just the energy of the unpredictability. All that is, it's really sad that the virus hit this time of year instead of middle of summer into the holiday time, of which nobody's really watching anyway. So the timing is tough. This Monday Night Raw with nobody there is tough. But we got through a WrestleMania that I had somewhat low expectations for anyway. So I think this is a good WrestleMania, and one that I think we will never forget. And that this is going to be one that we look back at and go, remember that WrestleMania where nobody was there? That was so crazy. So.
Yeah, just to feed off that, it's definitely one for the history books. I mean, it's never happened before. It's never happened in two parts. I think that I was on the same boat. I wanted them to postpone it because the thought of having WrestleMania without the crowd is just so bizarre to me. But they did what they could do. They did the best with the circumstances. I mean, they made it as safe as possible for the performers and everybody involved. And, honestly, it was comforting, because if we wouldn't have had WrestleMania, it's like not having the Super Bowl, I thank them for doing it, because it did take me out of everything that's going on right now, which is very uncertain. Nobody knows what's going on. And I was just happy that I got to watch wrestling and still be involved in something and be able to talk to people online about it and stuff. I was Zooming with my friend last night. We watched part 2 together. We were just talking, So again, weird circumstances, but overall, I think it was a really solid WrestleMania for working with what they had to work with. And I got caught up in the Undertaker match in the FireFly Fun House. I know you did it, Matt, but I did. And I thought it was great, and it brought a smile in my face, and I enjoyed it thoroughly. So, props to WWE for doing what they do best, and they're known for doing stuff like this in situations. Everybody remembers the shows after 9/11, and they refuse to not bring something to the masses to just get them out of what's going on around them for 5 minutes or 2 hours or whatever they do. So I appreciate the fact that they went on with the show.
Zach, any final thoughts?
That's it, man. I'm glad they pulled it together, and it was just a lot of fun to watch. That's what I got.
Awesome. Well, guys, it's been a pleasure to have both of you on here and to tear me down for hating it and the FireFly Fun House, and for me to try to defend myself in this handicap match. Mm-hmm. I really, it was fun. It was a fun time. And so before you guys go though, I want to give Mary you first opportunity if you guys want to share your social media, shout outs, whatever.
You guys can follow me at Mare_Bear on Twitter and at Poppins311 on Instagram. I'm not feuding with New Jersey Transit right now because I haven't ridden their bus in over a month. So you guys can tweet your conspiracy theories at me and let me know if I'm completely crazy and if the CM Punk AJ Lee hill is the hill I will die on. So that's that.
And then I am just on Twitter. I'm at ZachNXT. That's ZACHNXT.
Wow, pretty simple, straightforward. Love it. All right, guys. Well, it's been a pleasure. We will both be reconvening again at some point as WrestleMania season has come and gone, and now it's kind of in the depression of it's kind of like the day after Christmas, if you know, or I guess that's the only analogy where you get so much up to it, you build, it's up, and then it's over, right? And now you're into okay, now where are they going? So it's kind of that like. It's so much build and now it's gone. What's next? So, Money in the Bank clearly is next, and they're going to continue with these empty arenas. So, that's just the life that we're going to live for the foreseeable future. But you know what? I think we'll appreciate the hell out of a live audience whenever we get back to it. So, I'm looking forward to that, and that's what I'm going to try to focus on is our normal lives returning whenever that may be, and maybe it's a month, 2 months, maybe who knows, right? So, guys, stay safe. And thanks for coming on, and we will talk soon.
You too,
Thanks,
man.
guys.
Be safe.
Thanks.
Bye, Zach.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.